But Azonto, may you show us, because you say it's a dance. Please, we want to learn. We are here to learn, right? How many people want to feel the vibe of Azonto? Please.
As she does the move, kindly let's
clap for
stand
us. She's coming.
For our YouLead anthem.
Come.
What's your name again? Cherop? I got Cherop.
All right.
DJ?
So I want company of dancers from Kenya.
If you believe
or
in
from
yourself.
Ghana. It belongs to Ghana.
So let's start. How is the first move made? And we only have 1 minute to do it. So Azonto, the first move.
The music?
We do it without the music. Just show us and then we'll get the music.
Without the music?
Yes.
Down. And then? Up. Yeah. Azonto.
We shall use that move very soon. You're staying here with us. We're singing the YouLead song, right? Okay, DJ.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get up for YouLead.
Get to your feet, warm up. Let's sing our anthem to start the day, please. You remember you lead, I lead, we lead
together.
Benny, I think we should make our way there so that everyone can see us. Yes. Get to your feet, have some energy. We move. Okay. Hands in the air. Songa wele mama Africa. Hey. Move a little. From country to country, yeah. We gotta work together. We are leaders now, aiming high for the better together. To make our nations greater by sharing to empower. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together.
Haha. Move.
Reality.
Together we'll shape young men and women with the pillars, with the future. Here we are. Let's join together with ability to change communities, with love, with peace, to respond to our need, to call for unity. Hey, Africa, hear me cry, never leave me and leave me alone. Has a say light and a brighter future. Let's join hands for youth and women. I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. With your lead, hey, with your lead, let your dream be our reality. With your lead,
your legs,
with
your legs.
lead, let
Move
your
your
dream be our reality.
Hey. Yeah. Vijana wa Afrika wote waungana. Vijana mashariki, kaskazini na kusini, hata na kati.
Kwa pamoja.
Ili fanya nini?
You lead.
So you lead,
I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. Hey, let's make the move. Let's make it. Hey. Go. With your lead, let your dream be our reality. Time for freestyling now. You guys do yours. Hey. Aha. Woo. Aha. Yeah. I'm just too excited to see guys doing it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
So let's say that. So you lead. We do what? together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, MC Benny and Rebecca. We are officially starting day 2, the Youth in Business, under 40 Youth in Business Day. To start us off, I'd like us to just appreciate and invite the director of YouLead Africa and the head of the Leadership and Governance Academy, the one and only Ivan Atuyambe.
I'm not such a very long man, so I hope this thing is not gonna hide me. Yeah? I want us to do one thing without the microphone. Yeah? So we can stand just for once more. Thank you. And Lennon, my brother Lennon, you are where? We move it. Come, we move it. So if we, myself and Lennon, say Africa, we say? I used to be a preacher, so I would have said Amen. Huh? Oh, hallelujah. Huh? So, Africa.
Africa. Africa. Didn't you guys have breakfast? Africa. Africa.
We move it, Africa. You can take your seats. I will not say a lot, but I would like to say excellencies present, our partners and friends, the director of the Danida Fellowship Center, our international director in ActionAid Denmark, and our very good partner, John Bosco Carissa, and our executive director. The young people refer to her as Mama Africa, Madame Makena Mobobia. These are the pillars that make it happen, but most importantly, as our ED said yesterday, in fact, it is the young people's funded summit this year, largely. I really want the young people to stand up and applaud themselves. The young people, where are you? You have organized yourselves in your countries, on the continent. Some of you have been on a bus for 48 hours from Juba to Arusha. Please, they deserve another clap. Others jumped on a bus from Bujumbura. They deserve another clap. Of course, I'm talking about our brothers from Burundi, yeah? Muraho. Murakaze neza. The great trek from Kampala. I would have gone on and on, but in the interest of time, you know that this is the Business Leaders Forum. So I just want to offer a few words why this business forum is important. We have a continent that is home to the world's youngest population. And key things have come out as the greatest needs of the young people on the continent. They need to be effective leaders. They want to be leaders, but they don't feel well mentored. They don't feel well paid attention to, and they need this to happen. That's what they are telling us. That's number one. They express the great need of becoming a leader for the continent and taking Africa to Agenda 2063, because the framers of the agenda will not be there long when it is achieved. That is one. Secondly, they are not asking for what the continent can do for them, but they are asking for what they can do for the continent, but they need the tools to do so. They need the financing, they need the skills, and they need the frameworks. The frameworks are in place, but they're not well financed and not well connected to the young people. And they need to create jobs for themselves and others. And that's why we have introduced the Youth in Business, Trade and Enterprise pillar of our work with young people. The first pillar is political leadership and political participation. Then we are creating a generation of effective public servants, but they need also to have a dignified life with economic opportunities and decent work. Pillar 2 focuses on this. What are we doing about it? When we started this pillar, we started with this forum in 2019, the Under 40 Business Leaders Forum. Why is it important? The greatest need on the continent is young people's need to have dignified economic opportunities and work opportunities. And the theme for this year says it all: digital access and the future of work. What's the future of this continent? The future of this continent, I'm not saying you are the leader of tomorrow, but there will still be tomorrow, okay? They don't like, the young people don't like being told they're the future leaders. They are leaders now. So this forum is supposed to set pace on how the unemployment challenge on the African continent is supposed to be solved, but not by asking what government can do to create jobs, but what we can do as young people with the support of our governments to create jobs and opportunities economically. And as I finish, more so in recent years, the blessing of the continent, the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, has been said that it will immensely contribute to removing the challenge of jobs that are lacking and trading across the continent for the majority of Africans. And when we say the majority of Africans, we are talking about the young people. So in recent years, we are talking about the Africa Free Trade Area as a vehicle for solving the unemployment challenge on the African continent by young people leading the implementation and taking advantage of the frameworks and opportunities that the AfCFTA brings. What are the key challenges that this forum will solve? And I will disappear then. We have been working on this journey of the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement for 2 years now. We have seen 3 challenges, and I will just share briefly what we've done, and the forum will add on. 1, you cannot lift young people and empower them to trade if you don't know if they have capacity to trade, what they are trading in, and if it's succeeding, and what support they need. So what we've done is a continental study, the first ever on the continent, assessing, is this CFTA designed with young people in mind? 2, are young people aware that this is their blessing? 3, are they ready to pick it and run with it? And we have found 3 issues. First, the agreement did not involve them in its negotiation process. Solution, that was phase 1 of the agreement negotiations. Phase 2, young people must be at the center. And we made recommendation to the AfCFTA Secretariat. They have been with us on the journey, and they have picked that, and the phase 2 negotiations, which are ongoing now, have the largest potential and possibility of young people being heard. And as we speak, we have the Secretariat with us. Madam Yafika is representing the Secretariat to listen to you, and she will take the feedback to the Secretariat. The second challenge we have found, the structures for involving youth in trade negotiations are missing. Negotiations are with senior trade officials and the foreign affairs responsible ministries. Youth structures, youth councils, young parliamentarians are not there. So we have also supported the incubation of structures for involving young people in this negotiation process and the implementation of the outcomes of these processes. And one of the kind is the Independent Continental Youth Advisory Council on the AfCFTA. And the Continental Chair is also here. He's going to be moderating the next, whatever you call it, panel. Lastly, the challenge which is remaining is access to financing for the young people in trade. They don't have capacity to finance trade. They don't have capacity to produce for export. So this is the third thing we are working on now. The structures, we have introduced the Council for Youth, and today we'll also be launching the second structure that we are incubating for youth focused on business, the African Youth Business Council. And that's how we are contributing. We are just incubating ideas and structures that address the gaps that we found in our studies, and we are working with the responsible departments and agencies of the African Union and mechanisms of the regs. I think I want to stop there for now and say this is why we set up this business forum to discuss the few things I've highlighted and the many more that colleagues will be raising when they come to the floor. I want to thank you once again, and I wish you a very successful forum.
Thank you, Mr. Ivan Atuyambe, Director, YouLead Africa, and the head of the Leadership and Governance Academy at MS Training Center for Development Cooperation. We are indeed glad to have Madam Yafika, representing AfCFTA Secretariat. Wonderful having you. We are going to invite also very powerful lady who is going to, and we ask that during the course of the summit, dear delegates, feel free to interact with the guests who have come so that they could help your business and mine to be more effective in cross-border trade. So these leaders are here for us. I would love to invite Ms. Mia Vedel Jorgensen, who is the Associate Expert in Economic Affairs, Market Institutions Sections, and Regional Integration and Trade Division at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, popularly known as UNECA. A hand for Ms. Jorgensen.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today to talk about the importance of women and youth in the AfCFTA and the importance of ensuring an inclusive implementation of the AfCFTA agreement. The AfCFTA underscores the importance of promoting the sustainable and inclusive economic development and structural transformation. And Africa, as the youngest continent in the world, it is really important that we ensure that the AfCFTA also targets youth inclusion, as they are the ones, you are the ones eventually who are going to own this agreement and ensure its implementation. Some of the biggest challenges we in the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa see is the large informal economy of which youth is mainly represented. In the informal economy, the informal economy and the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, they account for 80% of Africa's businesses, and they create between 20 and 75% of jobs in different countries in Africa. So many of these jobs, women and youth are represented in this sector. And the main challenge of this informality is that it creates increased financial stress on youth and trade, and it limits their access to increase higher access to finance. There are higher incidences of being unbanked. There are expensive debt when you are in the informal sector, and these are all some of the things that we hope the AfCFTA are going to address And these are some of the things we today have to discuss on how we ensure these challenges are being addressed, so that you can overcome an easier access finance when you are entrepreneurs. How do you easier enter new markets by by enabling trade facilitation that are targeted you? How do we create more access to finance? These are all some of the things we have to discuss today. Exclusion of young groups in Africa and in the economic sector is the main challenge for Africa to structurally develop. So it's really important that we leverage the capabilities of youth and their entrepreneurial spirit and their technical capacity and their innovative capacity as well, so that we can secure the structural transformation and leverage the opportunity that the youth has. The AfCFTA will both create a lot of opportunities for youth, but youth will also play a key in ensuring the success of the AfCFTA. So the agreement will create more jobs in the formal sector by creating access to new markets. The AfCFTA, by eliminating tariffs by 90% on goods and liberalizing services, youth are able to leverage new markets, they can enter new markets, and we have to make sure that the youth is able to enter these new markets by these opportunities that is created. The AfCFTA will also support the creation of formal jobs. It will incentivize the informal businesses to become formalized, and there are significant opportunities to create more jobs. Some estimates suggest that employment can increase 1.2% for the continent as a whole. And then there are even more long-term benefits, such as more access to technology, development in the manufacturing sectors, higher value added in manufacturing, access to technology, which we have to make sure that youth are able to access these kinds of opportunities. Youth also play a crucial role for the successful implementation of the AfCFTA. SMEs, and particularly women and youth entrepreneurs, they are innovative in overcoming barriers, and they have the potential to lead the charge on green growth, digital trade, and e-commerce, and this accelerate business growth, and to maintain a solid presence in sectors such as music and culture, fashion. Youth are also mainly represented in this sector. So therefore, it's important that we also discuss the sectors where youth are mainly driving the impact and the growth. Youth on the continent are 1.6 times more likely to be entrepreneurs. So we have to make sure that the youth entrepreneurial spirit is fostered, and that we grow it, and we make sure that the access to finance for young entrepreneurs, so that they can access new markets and leverage the opportunities for the AfCFTA are harnessed. Some of the things we in ECA do to support youth in the AfCFTA is that we support the youth and AfCFTA under its 4 key areas by first, knowledge creation, capacity building. We support member states in their national implementation strategies on how to include youth, and think about how we address youth in the implementation of the national strategies. And then lastly, we also do advocacy. We are going to launch soon a report on how sport and youth and AfCFTA are going to, what opportunities there are to both leverage the opportunity of sport to unify in order to implement the AfCFTA, but also how sport as a sector where youth is largely represented, how that can grow in Africa and become even larger, and taking advantage of this unified market, and how we can create new jobs for youth. That's one of our research projects that are going to be launched very soon. We do also capacity building of business associations and youth associations. We do webinars, and we're collaborating with our partners such as UNDP, ITC, AfCFTA, the AfCFTA Secretariat, and then the youth organizations like Ikoyaka and Yalda. And then we have mentorship programs. So I also encourage youth to follow us on Twitter, as we sometimes have some mentorship opportunities you can follow. So we have about a year, 9 or 12 different mentees that undergo a mentorship program. And lastly, we are doing advocacy. We are engaging with governments to create forums for engaging with youth, and we look forward to taking this into the next level, as we have to support the negotiation of the Women and Youth in Trade Protocol. So we look forward to engaging with youth and our partners to really ensure the inclusiveness of youth in the AfCFTA. Thank you very much for your attention.
Awesome. Thank you, Mia Vedel Jorgensen, representing UNECA. Fun fact, founded in 1958, and it's one of the 5 regional economic commissions of the United Nations. We have the pleasure and honor of inviting Mr. John Bosco. Mr. John Bosco is the Chief Executive Officer of actually East Africa's Apex business organization. It's the East African Business Council. He will be representing Ms. Angelina Ngalula, who is the board chairperson of the East African Business Council. Kindly help me in welcoming Mr. John Bosco.
Good morning. Habari za asubuhi. Bonjour. Ça va? Very good. I think that is the start. And I would say that East Africa, we are blessed. Those are the 3 languages that are well recognized within the East African community. Allow me, before I deliver the remarks by my chairperson, Ms. Angelina Ngalula, who would have loved to join you, but she had other equally important engagement, and she has delegated me to present her opening remarks. But before that, allow me to call upon Ivan and the Director McKenna, to come in front to really appreciate you. And I want to, is Ivan, I think Ivan has, thanks, Anna. Thank you very much. And I want to mention why I called her. Ivan, please. I'm calling them in front to appreciate them for their commitment, for their love, and they are resilient in terms of driving the youth agenda in Africa. Let me say that it has been a challenging journey. Challenging in the sense that I and Ivan, we've been talking. We've been talking and saying that, you know, we have this attitude that once a program or an event is not funded by a donor or a sponsor, it will not happen. I sat with Ivan and Nechigari, said, can we test the water and invite the youth themselves to pay for the cost of participation? Because we couldn't postpone this event on the basis that there is no sponsorship. So that is the paradigm we need to have. That is the change we need to inculcate among our youth, among our leaders, that we should not always rely on external funding for a critical event like this one. So thank you, my dear sister and my brother. You've made it. You've made it, and congratulations. You've made it. I think the message is very clear to all our leaders that youth can make it. You can make it. And I always, you can go back, and I always want to echo and commend this slogan that youth can move Africa. Youth, you can move Africa. You can take the lead. You can take the lead in terms of the Africa we want, which is well encapsulated, well enshrined in the African Union mandate. So the Africa we want, which is under what we call Agenda 2063, one of its pillars is the CFTA, the implementation of the CFTA. We talk about CFTA, and we talk about why is it a game changer? It's a game changer because it is the world's largest free trade area in the whole world by the participating member countries. 54 out of 55 countries have signed the agreement. Do you know how many so far have ratified the agreement? Who can guess? 44. 44 have already ratified the agreement, meaning they have submitted the instrument of ratification. That demonstrates the political will, the commitment that the agreement is a game changer. And indeed, the Africa is on the rise. The Africa we want, we are going to achieve it. And it will only be achieved by the youth, you yourself. You have all the tools, you have all it requires to move it. And as Ivan already said, we can move it. And indeed, this forum, this business forum, you will see that you can move it. You have all the requirements, all the tools are in your hands. And I want to give you a story that we cannot always continue to lament that government has not created jobs. And again, where we are coming from East Africa, and those I always come earlier in an event I make on time. I was there listening people from different countries talking about uniqueness of their countries. And one thing that I want to tell you, and again to echo to the UNECA representative, is that being informal is not a bad thing. People are creating employment through informal. And I want also to demystify that informality is bad. It's not bad. Let me give you an example. Again, UNECA itself did a study under utilization of trade preference and trade agreements. East Africa was number 1. 44 of women and youth are taking opportunities of these trade agreements. They are taking whether you call it informal or what, but they are making money. They have created their own jobs. Someone from Uganda, he was looking at the same report. 30% of graduates from Uganda create their own employment before they leave universities. 30%. And do you know in which sectors? They are called informal, but they are formal. The agriculture sectors, they are creating opportunities in service-oriented sectors. They are in construction sectors. They are in telecommunication. And these are the sectors that are generating double growth digit in our economies. Again, giving an example, like in Kenya, during the COVID, there was a program for the youth. The youth themselves were able, through digital innovation, digital technology, to create employment for the youth, for almost 1 million youth during COVID time. So I thought I wanted to share with you that when we talk about opportunities, when we talk about youth in informal sectors, youth are making it. It is happening. They're exploiting opportunities. What we need to do as policymakers is always to create an enabling environment for the youth. Enabling environment. And I want to highlight those. I want to highlight 4 important aspects that are required for the youth. One, our policymaker need to create an enabling environment. Make sure that those barriers at the borders are completely removed to allow the youth to trade across the borders. Because the trade costs are always very high because of legal and regulatory impediments around our borders. 2, we need to initiate, and I've been discussing it with Ivan, we need to bring patient capital for the youth-oriented businesses. The current capital is not conducive for doing business for the youth. Even accessibility is very, very costly. The third one that is important, we need to address issues of information asymmetry. And this is the purpose of this engagement. That's why we pushed myself, Ivan, and McKenna that we have this event, because it provides an opportunity for networking, for sharing good ideas, for sharing innovative ideas. And I'm happy the theme today, and I will be one of the panelists, we're talking about digital access, the future of work. Generally, the digital, how do we embrace technology? Already in East Africa, we've embraced, and the framework have been created. Of course, we still have those challenges which are enumerate, the challenges related to infrastructure, the access, the internet costs. Sometimes we find that because when we talk about digital revolution, we need to make it happen by reducing those costs. Sometimes we find that our government impose VAT on airtime, and it becomes, you cannot talk about digital revolution, digital innovation when you are taxing those companies that are trying to innovate. They are trying to be creative. And I think these are the discussions we need to take forward. Another important aspect, before I again briefly give the key remarks, is the issue of capacity building training. And I want to call upon the donors here, CFTA Secretariat, UNECA. We need to craft a program. And EABC has already started, and we have a platform called My Isoko, meaning my market. ESC is our market. How do we optimize it? But we need to have tailor-made program, capacity building program for the youth to understand this agreement, to understand the intricacies, the complexity, how this agreement is crafted. Because as Ivan said, youth do not participate in the negotiation of this agreement, but they are the key beneficiaries of this agreement. So we need to invest more on capacity building, awareness creation, more training, understanding how this agreement is going to benefit the youth. So with that, again, quickly, I think I touched some of the points that my chair, first of all, she conveyed a very warm greeting to all the youth from everywhere in the continent, that she's part and parcel of the youth, because she has championed the establishment of youth and women desk within EABC. I don't know if Moses is here. Moses is one of our staff manning that desk. I think yesterday you met him, he's the part of the Ivan, and he has done quite commendable work. We are working together to ensure that that desk become a very, very vibrant desk. So, and it is a commitment by my chair that we need to ensure EABC drive this program, Women and Youth Program. Again, to appreciate, and she appreciated MSTCDC for the infrastructure. You've provided commendable infrastructure. Again, a very big round of applause to our executive director. I think those who have been around, who went there, you enjoyed the facility. And you will have time, I think, on Friday to sample Arusha. Arusha is a good city. And again, I want to appreciate the government here for making it, for facilitating the youth to be here. And I think those who I've been talking to a number of youth. They told me they were warmly received. And again, that is the culture of East Africa, and that is the culture of United Republic of Tanzania in terms of our warm reception. Tunashukuru sana. Thank you very much. So, as I mentioned, that the agreement provides enormous opportunities for the youth. It provides enormous opportunities for the youth. When you look at the entire protocol, the trade in goods, trade in services, and I'm happy that the CFTA Secretariat has also brought forward the protocol on youth and women, and the discussions are ongoing. Again, I want to commend you and convey our greetings to His Excellency Wamukere Mene for taking that call from the youth that the protocol need to be fast-tracked. The same protocol with e-commerce, it was supposed to be negotiated in the third phase, but we cannot, given the challenges of COVID, we've been grappling with COVID, that protocol of e-commerce has to be fast-tracked. So these are the important tools for us, for the youth, to make sure that they take advantage of the CFTA. And as I mentioned, that the CFTA holds a promise for this continent. You all know that based on the study conducted by World Bank, it indicated that once the agreement is implemented, it has the potential to improve income for about 68 million Africans. And it has to also lift 30 million Africans out of abject poverty. The same study indicated that the biggest gain from the CFTA is not about the tariff liberalization, the removal of tariffs. And we've wasted a lot of time talking about tariff liberalization. No, the biggest gain to the tune of $300 billion US will emanate from removal of non-tariff barriers, removal of regulatory impediments, what we call non-tariff barriers, the borders, the issues, those who are coming here that talked about issues of visas, issues of delays. We must promote borderless trade and investment in our continent. That is the core. That is the core by my chair, that we need to promote borderless trade and investment for the agreement to benefit the youth, to benefit the entire citizen, the continent. She also highlighted that there are a number of challenges, again, which I had briefly mentioned, that confront the youth. And the business forum today need to reflect on those challenges. One, limited knowledge of opportunities in export markets, and ways to integrate into regional value chains. In the EAC, we've identified the 5 value chains. Can anyone guess what are those 5 value chains where we have comparative and competitive advantage? Of course, agribusiness comes number 1 in the EAC. We are talking about leather and leather-related products. We are talking about pharmaceutical-related products. We are talking about tourism. Where you are seated here is one of the regions that attracts the highest level of tourists, both regional and international tourists. Of course, another value chain that is very critical is textile and garments. So those are very important. Those are very important value chain in the region, and we are pushing. Of course, we're also talking about automotive value chain. Another challenge is, quickly, in the interest of time, again, there is a challenge related to compliance with regulatory requirements, safety, and quality standards. The digital divide, we need to ensure that we reflect on that. The low level of digitization in trade, we have not embraced. Other countries, I was looking at the statistics. US is number 1, followed by China, then Europe, Africa, we are still behind in terms of embracing digitization in terms of trade. Whatever we are doing, we are still using manual methods of our work. So I'm happy that this forum today will deliberate on how best we can move forward on digitization. Another challenge has been currency convertibility, our currencies. Our currencies have lost value. You cross a border, your currency, if you have Rwandan francs, you go to Uganda, you lose 10% of its value. If you have Ugandan shilling, you go to Kenya, you lose 10% of that value. So that is the big challenges. How do we promote one currency? And I'm happy that AfrEximbank is coming up with PAPS, Pan-African Payment System, to reduce that exchange rate losses. And I hope that everyone will subscribe, will support the rollout of PAPS. Another challenge, again, lack of awareness of trade procedures. Examples, in East Africa, we have a simplified trade regime in the EAC, and that is also applicable in COMESA. So we need to embrace it, and we need to raise its threshold from $2,000 to $5,000. Again, shortage of funds for business startup and operations, and inadequate entrepreneurial skills and business skills. It has also been, she also highlighted that high production costs aggravated by high transport and logistic costs has been a challenge across the continent. So key recommendations, again from my chair, that the emergence of global value chain and digital economy provides another avenue through which youth can effectively participate in regional, continental, and international trade. Digital economy, if effectively and extensively explored, can enhance youth competitiveness in regional and international trade further. Again, capacity building opportunities through training will help to empower the youth in terms of required skills. Value addition in products to maximize profit, knowledge sharing among countries. Lastly, we need to strengthen our intellectual property rights. So, as I conclude, the YouLead Summit is therefore an opportunity for better understanding of the CFTA and update on ongoing negotiation on the protocol for women and youth in trade. And we need to suggest practical approaches to ensure meaningful youth inclusion in Africa industrialization agenda. Youth should therefore suggest the challenges and recommendations assessing youth involvement in Africa's industrialization and trade so as to ensure the achievement of Agenda 2063. With these few remarks, I thank you and I wish you a fruitful deliberation. Asante sana. Mungu ababarikie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, CEO John Bosco, CEO of the East African Business Council. And I'm glad that even before we begin the panel discussions, we're having these debates about formal, informal, non-tariff barriers, and what would be the best in terms of taking advantage of the AfCFTA. We now have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Pamela Koch-Hamilton, the Executive Director of the International Trade Center. Ms. Pamela's remarks.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and youth representatives, welcome to the YouLead Summit. It is a pleasure to join you virtually for the opening ceremony of this event. We're here today because youth are the continent's greatest resource. We're looking to you, young people, for ideas on how to harness the full potential of the AfCFTA to deliver on the trade and industrialization goals of the AU Agenda 2063. The AfCFTA Guided Trade Initiative, the GTI, was launched 2 months ago in Accra to enable commercially meaningful trade under the agreement. This, to me, is the final whistle that the AfCFTA train full of opportunities is about to leave the station. The African youth cannot afford to be left behind. The road ahead will not always be easy. Young people need knowledge of business opportunities, access to affordable finance, and a supportive business environment to make the most of the AfCFTA. That's why we have the Youth and Trade Initiative here at ITC. The program provides tools to support entrepreneurship and job creation. We work with market partners, incubators, and vocational training organizations to extend our reach and impact. Our online community of young entrepreneurs, called the YAY community, offers mentoring, capacity building, and networking opportunities. We at ITC are committed to supporting networks of young Africans all across the continent. This is why last year we launched our One Trade Africa initiative with the goal of empowering African small businesses, women, and young entrepreneurs to take full advantage of the AfCFTA. Building upon the recent achievements of the first ever AfCFTA Youth Day, we want to hear your views on Africa's trade agenda and the way forward. You have an important role to play in shaping key action areas and addressing issues facing young entrepreneurs. So bring your ideas on how to improve the African ecosystem of business support organizations and make the most of this opportunity to connect with others and expand your network. Many of this continent's future and current leaders are in this room today. As I conclude, I would like to express my gratitude to the YouLead Summit Organization Committee. We have Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan, the AfCFTA Champion of Women and Youth, to thank for rallying African policymakers to commit to a dedicated AfCFTA Women and Youth Protocol. Quoting the words of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the founding father of Tanzania, if real development is to take place, the people have to be involved. The youth are the greatest force of Africa's people. I want to leave you with this thought. The ideas and solutions that you come up with today will help shape the future of Africa. And that's no small responsibility. It's also a great privilege. I wish you all great discussions ahead, and I look forward to working together to make the AfCFTA work for Africa's youth. Asante sana.
Thank you. In absentia, thank you for appreciating Ms. Pamela
Your Excellencies,
Cook
distinguished guests,
for those wonderful remarks. And to reiterate what she mentions, make the most of this opportunity to network and learn. Right now, we invite Dr. Irene Issaka, who is the Director Social Services, representing the Secretary General of the East African Community, Dr. Peter Mathuki, to give opening remarks and officially open today's sessions. Dr. Irene, over to you.
Thank you so much, Facilitator. Good morning, everybody. Warm greetings from this beautiful city of Kampala, Republic of Uganda. Your Excellencies, leadership of MSTCDC, distinguished development partners, distinguished partners including CFTA Secretariat, ITC, UNECA, distinguished participants, delegates from different partner states, my colleagues at the EAC, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. On behalf of the Secretary General of East Africa Community Secretariat, please allow me to read his remarks for this important day to our youth in Africa. Distinguished participants, the community's greatest asset is its human resource, and therefore mobilization of an effective involvement of African youth for the national development and social progress is a key regional aspiration and is a major instrument of development in this business. Forum is one of them. You may all be aware that the EAC integration process will progressively achieve this through fully fledged engagement of youth, in customs union, a functioning common market, a monetary union, and ultimately a political confederation. And these are the 4 pillars of East Africa integration. Distinguished participants, youth participation in East Africa is provided under the Article 120C of the EAC Treaty, which provides for adoption of a common approach for the participation of youth in the integration process through education, training, and mainstreaming across EAC policies, programs, and projects as one of the strategic interventions towards realization of fully integrated community. Youth participation is also grounded in the EAC Youth Policy 2013 and the 6th EAC Development Strategy and the EAC Strategic Plan, where we have gender, youth, children, social protection, and community development. Ladies and gentlemen, EAC integration offers enormous opportunities to youth who are major stakeholders in socioeconomic development of each partner state, and indeed, East Africa and Africa region as a whole. In a light of provisions of EAC Treaty and other policy documents, this event, the Business Forum today, has been convened to strategize for the youth-led discussions and proposals that will enable EAC organs and institutions as well as stakeholders to sustainably address issues, both limit their meaningful participation in the integration process, as well as the social, economic, political well-being. Distinguished participants, the East African community has adopted African Union Commission definition of youth, which defines youth as consisting of population of the age between 15 and 35 years. Within the EAC, youth form a critical part of population. They constitute over 75% of total population of about 3 million. So out of 3 million people, we have more than 75% youth. Indeed, young people are always referred to as leaders of tomorrow. It is therefore important for young people to be involved and to participate in issues that will form an integral part of their future in this region. Youth is East Africa's and Africa's future. Participation of youth in the EAC economies and Africa economies is guided by the commitment at the national, regional, and international levels. The youth are the most involved in businesses which are micro and small in size, SMEs. The SME sector is the most dynamic and fastest growing sector in the EAC at a rate of 10% per annum. The sector accounts for more than 75% of all EAC employment and contributes to more than 65% of EAC's gross domestic products. At the national level, all the EAC partner states recognize the crucial contribution of the youth, and they provide the inclusion in their national development strategies related to capacity building mechanism. At the regional level, apart from the SDGs and AU's agenda, the EAC has adopted various mechanisms to promote youth-based businesses in the East Africa. And these include, I'll mention a few, the EAC Youth Policy. This is a binding framework for effective implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of youth programs and projects. It ensures that youth have been accorded proportionate recognition and participation in all national and regional development activities. Secondly, the EAC Simplified Trade Regime, known as EAC STR, is a trade policy tool which affords special provisions to small traders by separating them from the mainstream high-value transaction clearances and allowing the application of simpler customs clearance requirements. It aims specifically at small cross-border traders, SCBT, who regularly transact in low-value consignment valued at below $2,000. One of the main tools under the STR is a simplified customs document, which is intended to further simplify the process by serving both proof of origin and declaration form. A simplified guide to micro and small scale cross-border, this is another instrument where the traders and service providers within the EAC. It contains comprehensive user-friendly information pack on up-to-date relevant information, the existing EAC policies, procedures, requirements, rules of origin, taxes, tariffs, exemptions, and facilities available to assist cross-border traders. Distinguished participants, some of the challenges faced by youth in business are included but not limited. I know you have heard from the previous speakers. They've been mentioning about this, but also because it's this forum, I find it valuable to add, to allude into that. So some of the challenges include, but not limited to, available mechanism for facilitating cross-border trade for SMEs, including the youth traders. Limited access to finance is another challenge. Limited awareness on the opportunities available at the regional and international markets, such as the AfCFTA. Limited access to international economic programs and markets. Low level of involvement and presentation, policy and decision-making processes. Distinguished participants, the EAC has a number of priorities. I'll mention the ones we are specifically targeting youth. One of the priorities is the implementation of the EAC youth policy, implementation of the regional projects based on the EAC social development framework, implementation of consultative dialogue framework, CDF, for civil society, private sector, and other interested groups. And this you fall squarely into that. The youth and this kind of forum that you are having today is falling into the consultative dialogue, so that all the deliberations that you are going to have today, it means they can permeate through the EAC structures via the SG's forum, which is in line with Article 127 of the treaty that established the EAC. So whatever the decisions or the conclusion that you are going to have, the recommendations, they will permeate through the structures and the governance systems of the EAC via the consultative dialogue framework. Also, another priority is the establishment of regional business incubation centers for young entrepreneurs, development of guidelines and establish a regional incubation center, creation of EAC Award Outstanding Innovative, contributions by women and youth to industry and manufacturing, develop a rollout and regional award recognition. Another development program for capacity building, youth in businesses running competitive businesses, especially in terms of improving value chain, quality of products, innovation, reducing the cost of doing business. Another priority is involving different EAC media houses to disseminate information to different youth segments. Mobilization of private sector, especially younger innovators, to develop the ICT, which augurs well with the theme of this summit. The solution tailored towards facilitating youth businesses processes through public-private partnerships. And policies and systems will be geared towards creation of regional value chain, starting with products with high potential to respond to this. So to respond to this, the EAC region will also intensify efforts to modernize economic infrastructure in the areas such as roads, railways, power, energy, air and water, transport, ports and urban operations in order to lower overall economic cost of doing business in the region. The EAC values youth as the leaders and drivers of the EAC integration process as required by Article 120 of the EAC Treaty. As I conclude my remarks, I wish to reiterate the EAC's commitment to deepen the regional integration agenda laid out by the EAC Community Treaty in order to effectively engage youth in the integration process. Allow me to thank all partners and all of you who have supported convening of this important event, the resource persons, discussants, facilitators, for accepting and share the knowledge of youth and each one of you present here today, for finding time to participate in this event. I wish you a fruitful deliberation. All the best. God bless you all. Asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, the ESC Secretariat, for that amazing speech. Good morning, our youth. Good morning. It's our time now, isn't it? We've had enough of speeches. I think we're all tired. It's now our time. Sindio, isn't it? Oh, you're hungry. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Hey, you didn't have breakfast, huh? We closed the doors very early. How many are hungry? All of you? There are those who are on the line, my friends. There are those I saw. But anyways, welcome. Welcome to this amazing panel. This is our panel, We the Youth. And I know we are hungry, but I know we will survive. We will be able to survive, I'm very certain. Sindio, how many are ready for this panel? How many are ready for this panel, Jameni? Let me see some energy. Let me see some energy. Good, good. We have a number of you. So my name is Emolot Alan David, and I do chair this amazing council. Let them see it properly. I do chair this amazing council, the Independent Continental Youth Advisory Council on the AfCFTA, an outcome of the YouLead Summit. I know we all sing the YouLead song, and we all love saying, let your dreams come true. Isn't it? So the YouLead is one of those amazing youth, generic youth summits that eventually makes dreams come true. Last year, this dream here came true because of you people, your views, your thoughts, and your, of course, your amazing participation. So I do chair this council, and we have chapters in the 54 member states. I don't know, the Tanzanians in the house, the Ikoyaka Tanzania, Faraji and the team, are you here? Before I start, I would like to recognize you for the good work you're doing. And of course, the Continental team, Dr. Eileen from the US and my coordinators here. So this panel is mainly our panel, the youth panel. And the most interesting thing about this panel, we are taking it into 2 continents. We are going to discuss something very amazing, the AU-EU partnership. How many of us have heard of that partnership? The AU-EU partnership. How many? Good. I see a couple of hands here. So earlier this year, about February this year, the extraordinary heads of state meeting that happened in Belgium, I want to believe, of the heads of states from the African Union and the European Union came together to mainly discuss some of the development aspects of the African continent. And one of the key focus was to see that our African youth take charge of their own development. And the amazing bit about it, they were fronting youth in business. And to put the icing on the cake, it is the AfCFTA. And for those who know the AfCFTA or don't know the AfCFTA, my panel that is coming here is going to literally give us an idea of what the AfCFTA is. But this extraordinary summit of the African and European Union heads of state was mainly aimed at discussing our youth. Our youth, what can the AU and the EU do to strengthen youth participation, to strengthen youth development? But the focus is to have youth own their own development. That is the focus. And that is the whole idea now that we are pushing through the AfCFTA to see that we, the amazing youth in this room, take charge of our own development. We need to be in front. pushing for our own development. And that is the idea. And this amazing panel today that we are going to have is mainly going to dissect how youth are going to engage, how youth are involved in the processes of the African Union, but also the European Union itself. So without taking a lot of our time, and also being mindful of your time, is that let me invite my panel, and my panel is mainly young. The average age is about 30. Let's put at 30. The average age is 30. I know someone looking at me. The average age is 30. So let me invite our first speaker, our discussants, Adam. Adam is the founder of African News Page, the member of the council that we are launching in the afternoon. One of the founders, the initiators of the African Business, Youth Business Council. Adam, welcome. Please, hand of applause for him, Javedi. Yeah. Anyway, you could sit near me there. Secondly, I would want to invite my good sister here, Miss Yafika from the AfCFTA Secretariat, to join us. Yes, the AfCFTA Secretariat is really championing youth inclusion in the implementation processes of the AfCFTA, so we really give you thanks. Thirdly, my brother Juso. Juso, could you come through? Juso is the Vice President of the African European Federalists. No, the Young European Federalists, sorry. And he does coordinate for the AfCFTA Youth Advisory Council. He does coordination of the European chapter. And also my brother Stephen. Stephen, welcome. Stephen also is part of if we're talking about the AU-EU partnership, very key in those discussions. And of course, last but not least, my brother, Lennon, from the APRM Secretariat. Please give him a round of applause, Javeni. Yes. Thank you. Then, lastly, we are having amazing youth who have been in the bootcamp from the ITC. So my sister, very good one, Mechi Ama, she's a young entrepreneur doing a lot. She will be able to discuss. She's a year advisor. I don't know how many year advisors are here. Let me see. If you skipped this meeting, no DSA for you. How many are you? Let me see. Yeah, good. Thank you. Mechi, welcome. But before I continue, it's important to recognize one of our very own, our youthful leader. She's pushing. She's a strong advocate for youth inclusion. Right now, she's in the EAC, but I would want to interest her. Let's take this thing to the continent. A few weeks ago, I saw her around, and I think we are broadening the spectrum of youth engagement. And of course, it's always an honor to have her, and thank you for honoring our invitation. And who else? None other than the first daughter of the President of Kenya, Miss Charlene Ruto. Welcome. Thank you. So thank you so much. And let's jump into the discussion. This is a youthful discussion, and we need to keep it youthful. And of course, before I sit down, we will give it back to you. It's to get your views. Today is mainly focused on getting your propositions. What do you think needs to be worked on? What are some of the propositions you think we need to add on? The AfCFTA Secretariat is here. We are very soon starting on the negotiations on the Protocol of Women and Youth in Trade, and it will be very important to have you share as much ideas, as much challenges that you're facing, but mainly, I think we want to focus more on solutions and some of the propositions that then will form part of the Protocol of Women and Youth in Trade. Because again, this protocol is ours. We are owning it, and it's the reason that's why the council is there, the EABC, YouLead, and the different partners are here to champion, to ensure that we own it. So ideally, we are going to give you time. Please feel free, share your ideas, and the team here will be able to capture. So with those many remarks, allow me to start with my first discussant. There was a mic somewhere there? Yes. So my first discussant is Miss Yafika. As you all know, she's from the AfCFTA Secretariat. But mainly what we would want to interest her, we don't want to assume. You hear us saying the AfCFTA. I know some of us struggle to mention the AfCFTA, or you say CFTA. So the idea is to give us a context. What is this amazing agreement you hear me talking about that I always champion all over? What is it, and what is there for the African women and youth in trade? But specifically also, those who are not in trade but hoping to join, because ideally the AfCFTA doesn't limit. So yes, Yafika, we could start from there. What is this AfCFTA about and what is there for the youth? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from everyone from Accra. So what is the AfCFTA? The AfCFTA stands for the African Continental Free Trade Area. So this was an agreement that was signed in 2018 by heads of states and government when they came together and thought that African integration is important, and one of the key areas that they can channel the integration is through economic integration. So by bringing together all markets within the African continent to say we should be able to trade easily and without any trade barriers that we currently have. So with that said, it came into force in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. 2021, no, came into force in 2019. And then in 2021, it was implementational. What does that mean? It means that we can now trade under the AfCFTA agreement in principle, but we only have started commercially meaningful trade in October with the 7 countries through the Guided Trade Initiative, meaning that the countries that traded under the preferential regime of the AfCFTA benefited from the tax reduction, and they didn't have any challenges from moving tea from Kenya to Ghana, and that's what pretty much the agreement is saying. It is saying you can now, within Africa, be able to get raw materials from Angola without having to pay a hefty price, or be able to move goods from Malawi to Ghana without facing a lot of challenges that you were facing before. And you are able now to say, as an African, I don't have to buy raw material from China or bring in goods from China, which is cheaper. Now we are saying it will be cheaper for you to trade within Africa. Pretty much that's the idea of the AfCFTA agreement. What opportunities are there for the youth? I'm sorry. Everyone is making me nervous. I'm getting there.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So yes, so the heads of states and government also agreed that it's important that if we are saying we are doing African integration, it's important that everyone is included. And who is everyone? The majority is the youth. That's why you see young people like me also being part of the implementation process, because inclusion of youth in policy is important as much as inclusion of youth is in the implementation process, is because what is the point of creating policy without those that you are creating it for being involved? So the agreement implementation phase is saying, we are here, but we need you on the ground to be able to implement your solutions to the problems that you are facing, and we don't want to be prescriptive. That's what the opportunities that the AfCFTA, through the Protocol of Women and Youth, is trying to achieve. And that's why we are thankful for YouLead and our partners in the different aspects in which they're assisting in accelerating the inclusion of youth, and also including their ideas and solutions in how we can include youth in the different aspects of trade and the trade barriers they face, especially in the informal trade sector. I mean, we acknowledge that we cannot remove the informality of trade, but we're also saying that we'll create safeguard measures to protect women and youth that are trading, crossing the borders on a day-to-day basis, to make sure that they also benefit from the agreement, because if they don't benefit from it, then the agreement is futile. And we might, in 2 years, 5 years' time, not be able to move and go back to where we started. So the agreement pretty much is a sustainable one, and the solutions we are trying to create are both sustainable and that is for posterity. We might not benefit from it, but our future will definitely benefit from the agreement. And the Secretariat is also saying that we are open to collaborate, to partner, to hear the voice. We are not shutting out the youth, and we encourage the youth on the different levels and platforms that the Secretariat is invited to come and speak and engage on the work of the Secretariat and how they can support on the different platforms and avenues. And we are currently also working on digital trade protocol, which will speak to digital trade and how to protect entrepreneurs and also keep those tech geniuses within the continent to create platforms that enable us to put our goods online without having to pay hefty prices, and also to protect and say, we value you. We don't want you to go outside and give your intellectual properties, and we will create policies that speak to both protecting you and saying we value your inputs. We don't want Africa to be brain drained. We want to be able to maintain the resources beyond just natural resources, because we know we are equipped and we are able. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, Jameni, yes, it's good. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that build up, and we're grateful. And I'll come back to you to give more detail on the workings on the Women and Youth in Trade Protocol. How far have we reached? Any update on that, and what is coming up in terms of youth engagement at the Secretariat? But right now, to give us, of course, we've talked about, of course, the AU-EU partnership. But to give us context from the African side is my brother Lennon from the APRM Secretariat to mainly give us what is that, what is the AU-EU partnership, what are some of those pillars that are therein for us to look up to, but also what is there for the African continent. Yes.
Thank you so much, my brother. My name is Lennon Munyai from the African Peerism. Honor for me to be on this panel with very great young people, well-established young. I come from the small organ of the African Union, but that does a lot of great work called the African Peer Review Mechanism. And I was just explain to you some of the 5 pillars that guide the Africa-EU cooperation. So I was a faculty member at the boot camp, so we spent a lot of time sort of learning together. So I'm going to ask you to take out your notes and write these 5 pillars so that you understand what this cooperation entails. But other than that, I also kindly request you to continue sharing online. We're trending #1 in Tanzania, YouLead 2022, so that young people that are not in this room can also hear the good news of cooperation, the AfCFTA Secretariat and its work, the African Union, the cooperation between the EU and the AU. So the 5 pillars that has been agreed upon and affect young people are as follows. The first one looks at partnership for green transition and energy. So it's a big pillar on the cooperation. The second one looks at partnership for digital transformation, and I think it speaks to the theme that we are dealing with at this particular conference. The third one looks at sustainable development and jobs. As you know, even before the COVID-19 pandemic started, youth unemployment was a big scourge, and it still affects a lot of young people, decent jobs, underemployment. And we hope that the CFTA will work towards dealing with the challenge of youth unemployment. The fourth one looks at peace and governance. It's an area that I work with. We had a big agenda within Agenda 2063 of silencing guns by 2020. And we still have challenges, even here in East Africa, the eastern part of DRC. You do have issues of insecurity. And governance has been looked at as one of the areas that can assist in sorting out the challenges of peace and security on the continent. And the last is the issue of migration and mobility. These are the 5 big pillars that guide the cooperation between the Africa and Europe, but sort of facilitated between the African Union and the EU. As for me as a young person, I'm going to sort of remove the cap of working for the African Union and sort of speak out on some of the issues young people have voiced out at some of the platform that I've had the experience of being at. Young people have been lamenting on the issue of people-to-people relations, in that some of these big frameworks and agreements do not necessarily sort of trickle down or get young people to cooperate and meet. So I'm very happy to actually be next to brothers from the European Union, so that we can cooperate to move it from a very state-to-state level. Regional institutions such as the African Union and EU, more to just ordinary people. There's of course the long challenge of moving beyond aid and development cooperation to more tangible things that can directly affect the lives of young people and be empowering skills development, especially in areas around innovation. Given the advent of the fourth and fifth industrial revolution. Then there's also a very sensitive topic that I've picked up amongst young people, discussing issues around reparations and repatriation of African goods that are in Europe. So then widespread sort of topics and issues around EU that we can look at as young people and further enhance this relationship that is there between Europe and Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lennon. Jameni, round of applause, Jameni. It's a good one, thank you. I've been informed, reliably informed, that some of our discussants have arrived, and it's just good enough to recognize and welcome them to join in. I will have to hand over my chair officially. Yes, so we will have Miss Grace Mugavekazi. I need to go to Rwanda and learn Kinyarwanda and pronounce this very well. But yes, she's a Senior Policy and Programs Advisor at the Youth Connect Africa Hub. She will be joining us online, but joining us physically here will be Mr. Joseph Manirakiza. Manirakiza is a Program Manager, Funguo Innovation, and he works with UNDP Africa. Thank you so much. You could join us up here. Thank you. Clap for him as he comes. That's also good here. Yeah. Good. So I know we have all been struggling with our phones, and we want to use our phones. We encourage you to tweet, retweet. So we have found the password. The person with the password was hiding. The Wi-Fi password. We finally found him. So the password is ESC at 2022. ESC at 2022. This symbol is exclamation mark. Thank you. We went to good schools, eh? That's what you're using. It's not working. Then I need to summon him again. We will find him. We will find him. But thank you so much, my brother Joseph, for joining in, and also my sister from the Youth Connect Hub, who is joining us virtually. I know we will be calling you to give in some interventions on what the Youth Connect Hub is doing, Youth Connect Africa Hub is doing. We were in Kigali in October for the Youth Connect Summit, where we had a pre-continental summer boot camp event as a pre-activity for the Youth Connect, and your support was really appreciated. So right now, I would want to bring in my brother, Juso, to just come in. I know my brother Lennon just gave us the African context of the AU-EU partnership, 5 pillars and so on. Yeah, but now, Juso, what is there in that, in the cooperation or in the partnership that is of interest to the European Union, but also, of course, just to give us those things that the EU is planning to then leverage so much on the AU-EU partnership. Welcome, Juso.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Yuso. You may remember me from the Pajama Party. But more importantly, I'm from the Young European Federalists. It is a youth organization that advocates for European Union integration towards a federation. So I'm very pleased and honored to be here to discuss the future perspectives of an African common market. And once again, thank you to YouLead for the warm welcome here. Yeah, it's really striking to see the similarities within Europe. One of our mottos is Europe is what we make of it. And here in this room, I really feel like Africa is what you, the people in this room, make of it. So Africa, we move it. We're looking at Agenda 2063. I think that is the mission of our lifetimes, because when we are going to be in 2063, looking back on what we achieved during our lifetimes, that is going to be the legacy. And I really hope that that legacy is going to include the achievement of this integrated common African market. There are two challenges that I think are crucial for our time, and those are climate change and digital transformation. Digital transformation is also within the title of our event. And there one initiative from the European Union that I would like to highlight is the Global Gateway. So the Global Gateway, it is an investment package that is about connectivity all across the world. And Africa is really at the very center of that. For Africa, that means 150 billion euros of investments, almost 200 billion US dollars of investments in climate resilience, but also in digital connectivity. And I think this is really important and relevant for the people in this room, because digital connectivity, it is crucial for e-commerce, for example, for digital businesses, perhaps the kind of businesses that our generation would like to establish in the future that many of us already have. The internet penetration rates within Africa in 2021 was around 43%. And that is something that we should really increase on. That is going to create new markets. Consumers will have access to these services that businesses are providing. And moreover, the infrastructures, the cross-border infrastructures that we can build that can really unite across borders within Africa. So that is absolutely crucial. So this is one initiative that is to be highlighted. Of course, on climate, again, that is something that fundamentally affects the economic perspectives of our generation. And I have to acknowledge, of course, that Africa is disproportionately affected and didn't make as big of a contribution to climate change. So we have to acknowledge our responsibility on that as well. But really, I would also like to convey the greetings of the Commissioner for International Partnerships. She was very pleased to be invited for this event, and even though a schedule conflict prevented her participation, what I can say is that every time she speaks about her work, she always speaks about her commitment to the youth of Africa and in the power that you have to transform the continent and the world. She always says that her very first mission was to the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, and every time she goes on mission, she wants to meet young people. So really, there is this commitment at the political level to young people of Africa to make this change. And with that, I'm going to come to my conclusion. I come from an organization that has advocated for European Union integration for decades. This year is our 50th anniversary. And I have to say, there have been setbacks, there have been crises along the way. It is undoubtedly going to be the same with African integration. This is a monumental project. This is something truly transformative, but that means that it comes with its own challenges. But do not get discouraged by those future challenges. Overcome them. In Europe, we tend to say that in every crisis lies an opportunity for further progress. And that's why I would like to conclude with a quote from the founding document of the European Federalist movement. It was written in 1941 in the depths of World War II, in Europe's darkest moments. And it says, the road to pursue is neither easy nor certain, but it must be followed, and so it shall be. Thank you.
Thank you, Juso. Thank you, Juso. And I think you always forget to mention that Juso works with the European Union. And it shows you, if you look at the AU-EU partnership, Lennon works with the AU, Juso works with the EU. And that alone shows you how the two unions are championing youth inclusion in the development processes of the two continents. So thank you so much. And I would not want to deviate much, but bring in Stephen. Stephen, you could just come through and give us, within the EU-AU partnership, what is the EU, how is the EU approaching it, especially at the member state level? What are some of those initiatives that the EU is now fostering to ensure that it strengthens the partnership, but starting at the grassroots level? Yes.
Well, thanks very much indeed, David. And I think as every speaker who's gone before me, I must iterate my appreciation for being part of this forum. I'm delighted to be here. I think when it comes to trade and supporting sustainable development through trade, something that the EU can take a lot of pride in is its ability to speak with one voice and come with a unified approach to these subjects. But at the same time, there's always room for each of the 27 member states to bring their own perspectives or areas that they are most passionate about or have expertise in. And I can give you an example, I suppose, from my own country in Ireland. When we come to supporting European African initiatives for young people working in trade and finance and supporting small, medium enterprises, a concept that we have liked to champion is something called intergenerational co-leadership. And this was a concept actually that originated in Africa. If I'm correct, it was something first brought into the public domain by the first AU spokesperson for youth, Aya Chevy from Tunisia. And this is a concept to bring young people into the table as key negotiators when it comes to any type of policy, but it works very well in trade because at the end of the day, if young people are not at the table, if they do not have a seat of the power, it's one thing to say you're listening to young people's views, but how can you actually implement them if they are not key negotiators and have the same standing and status as everyone else? So this is something that Ireland is particularly proud to champion. And one other thing I might say, to circle back again to the issue of EU unity. Very recently, back in October, all EU member states, 27, came together and strongly endorsed the new EU Youth Action Plan. And this is something I think is really important in this perspective and in this conversation because it talks so much about partnerships. And I think that is key to the discussions that we will have today. Having partnerships to engage, having partnerships to connect, having partnerships to empower. And one thing that I'm personally quite happy to see included as well inside the Youth Action Plan is an initiative for youth and women in democracy and to support in any way can getting more young people and more women into leadership positions. This is something we have issues with in Europe just as much as Africa, if I'm totally honest. We need more women in leadership positions, it is true. So we are really happy to work in this front. And with that, I won't take much more of your time, David. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause, David. Yeah. And it's of course highlighted one of the key principles if you talk of youth development in the African continent, the idea of intergenerational co-leadership, or that is very core if we Africans are to develop. I know yesterday we had a very good discussion on a bit of governance in the afternoon, and I saw the energy when our young people were like, oh this, oh that. But the idea of intergenerational co-leadership is one I think the AU is really fostering to ensure we have the old chaps train or initiate the young chaps in the system. And of course, I'm happy my sister Ruto is here to just ensure that we integrate in the process. That the youth are integrated in the development process, but not neglecting the role the old people. Yes, we probably would want to take transition, but it's very core to see that we promote intergenerational core leadership. So before I continue, before I bring in my next panelist, Mr. Adam, here I would just want to give it back to you quickly. Someone, no. Just a quick question. Just raise your hand on the AfCFTA. It's a quick trivia. When was the AfCFTA signed? When was it signed? A quick one. Who knows? Just a quick hand. When was it signed? The AfCFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Who knows? My Ikoyaka people, if you don't raise your hands, my friends, why are you championing the AfCFTA? Who is that one saying? You raise your hand. The mic. Let them hear your voice, my friend. Eh? A quick one. This is to you. This is a youthful event.
Let's hear this lady right here.
Where is the lady? Good.
From which country and your name?
Name, country, give us, when was the AfCFTA signed?
2018. My name is Suilanji Newa from Zambia.
Thank you, our Zambian comrades. Thank you. A round of applause, Javedi. Yes, with that, I want to bring my brother Adam. I know you've been into the AfCFTA development processes and you run an amazing news page that then, of course, has been over the year dedicated to sharing different initiatives on the AfCFTA. So maybe my question to you then is mainly related to what we could now focus on, some of those key initiatives that you think are going to foster or strengthen the AU-EU partnership. But most importantly, focusing on how then can our African women and youth leverage on this? Because it seems far-fetched, it seems a heads of state kind of partnership, but how then can we localize it, and what can the African young women and youth do to take advantage of this? Yes, my brother.
Okay, thank you so much, David. My name is Adam Alkali. I'm a journalist and mediapreneur. Like David has said, I publish an online news publication which is essentially focused on the African Union's Agenda 2023. And as we know, one of the flagship programs of the EU's Agenda 2023 is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which has begun implementation not long ago. Now, talking about the Africa-EU partnership, I would like to approach it from three perspectives. Number one, what is even the Africa-EU partnership and what does it mean to us, as young people? And number two, what is how does the AfCFTA relate to that partnership? And finally, how can African youth benefit from the opportunities that the AfCFTA, tries to bring to us? First of all, I've been involved, I'm currently involved in an effort to establish a civil society engagement mechanism with the EU-EU partnership, which has unfortunately until now been quite opaque, quite asymmetrical, with the European Union essentially setting the agenda. That's why I'm glad to hear that my friend is here from the EU. We really need to have to work together with you who are insiders, because what we are doing, in co-creating this civil society engagement is to ensure that there's a civil society voice from both EU and Africa in this kind of negotiations, in the signing, in the development of these agreements, because most oftentimes what happens is that heads of state and government of the African Union meet their counterparts either in Brussels or anywhere across Africa to come up with these agreements, which are ultimately, as far as we are concerned, do not actually represent, the interest of citizens of Africa and also the civil society from Europe, who is really keen on ensuring that the partnership between EU and EU has become balanced. As it is now, we are aware of what happened, for example, at the last summit in Brussels in February, where the African heads of state were not happy. In fact, they were even reluctant about going in the first place because there were issues about waiving, the intellectual rights for COVID-19 vaccines, which, ultimately, if you look at the pledges made, at those summits, in reality, those things never get implemented. Now, the challenge before us as African citizens, as European citizens, is to engage with this partnership to make it work for Africa in particular, because as it is now, it is the Africans that, seem not to be favored, by the outcome of this partnership. And then to ensure that, this is really balanced and not as symmetric as it is now. Now, talking about the AfCFTA, and its relation to the partnership, like my brother Lennon has said, there are now 5 pillars, that guide, the AU-EU partnership. The thing is, trade is not one of those pillars, but job creation is one of those pillars, which means and how do you create jobs? You create jobs through trade, through industrialization. It means the AfCFTA is going to be key to the AU-EU partnership, particularly looking at the fact that there is currently an effort, by the European Union to foster what it calls continent-to-continent free trade area. The European Union is already a free trade area, a customs union too as well. The African Union is a free trade area now. We are moving towards the customs union. The idea is to, going forward, ensure that there is a kind of EU-AU free trade area that will foster the movement of goods and services across the two important regions. The concern for us Africans in this is the fact that if care is not taken, we will be the losers in this game. So as African youth, I want to urge us to be interested in these processes, to be concerned about this process, to engage and follow these processes, and be able to ensure that the outcome of these processes favor the African continent, it favors the African citizens, it favors African youth. And finally, talking about the role of African youth in the AfCFTA, I've always said it, and others have also emphasized this even in this session, that the success or or otherwise of the AfCFTA will be determined by the extent to which the agreement is able to mainstream young people in its implementation. The challenge with Africa's youth, including youth entrepreneurs today, is that access to even funding is a principal issue. Capacity and awareness is a serious issue. Free movement is a big deal, and that is why I've been involved with YouLead in creating what we call the African Youth Business Council as an instrument to use to foster the effective participation of African entrepreneurs, young African entrepreneurs, youth-led businesses in the whole AfCFTA conversation. So indeed, in summary, I believe the AUE partnership is an opportunity for young Africans to engage with the governments of the African Union and the governments of the EU and be able to positively influence the outcomes of this partnership and be able to benefit from the immense opportunities that this partnership brings, including in the areas of trade. Thank you.
Good. Good. Thank you, my brother. And I love the way you're raising very critical questions and very critical points in terms of the gaps that are existing. And of course, this is, of course, I would now want to interest now, I don't know if the Wi-Fi is now steady. I would want to interest later on at the lunch break for us to go to the YouLead page and download the AfCFTA Youth Inclusion Study Report. That report highlights some of the issues that Adam is raising, and especially on the information deficit, on the youth, inadequate youth, meaningful youth engagement in the process. It's very informative and it's for your consumption. You will check on the YouLead website, you just go to the publications, it's available for you to then consume. And of course, not really running away from Adam, just to bring my good sister Yafika there. I mean, not Yafika, but Mechi. Mechi is a very young entrepreneur, and Adam here is raising challenges, some of the challenges that are involved in the AfCFTA processes, especially focusing on youth inclusion. As a young trader, what are some of those challenges you're facing, but also focusing on those opportunities that you think the AfCFTA will be able to give to you? Since, of course, I will throw it later on as you finish to the audience to suggest to give me some answers. But yes, to you, what are some of those challenges and opportunities? The mere fact that you've also been in the bootcamp, the ITC bootcamp, what are some of those things that you think are coming out for you as a young entrepreneur? Yes.
Okay, first, my name is Mechi. I am from Cameroon. I'm the founder and the CEO of Black and Natural Cosmetics, 100% natural manufacturing startup. We manufacture organic hair and skin products. So thank you once more for providing this platform for me. It's an honor to be here. I've been here for a couple of days and we had the boot camp organized by ITC. It was a privilege because I got to learn more about advocacy and leadership, and that's why I'm here. But if I want to start talking about that, I think I'll get into time because it was so much. So I'll just dive straight into the AfCFTA. So recently, I was traveling. I was in the bus from one city to another, and I encountered there was somebody sitting by my side, and we engaged in a conversation. And then he told me he's a petty trader. I was like, okay, do you know about the AfCFTA? He was like, oh, what's that about? I'm like, it's about youth in trade. He's like, okay, I sell electronics. How would that be beneficial to me? And I told him, where do you buy your things from? He says, sometimes he buys from Nigeria, sometimes he buys from Douala. And I'm like, okay, when you buy from Nigeria, don't you encounter customs on the road? Yes, he said, yes. He said, like, there are more than 10 control checks on the road. And by the time he finished giving, we call it in Cameroon, choco, like to bribe or to, tip the custom people along the right road to get his products to his marketplace. He realizes he has spent a lot, and because of that, the prices of his goods go up. Definitely, you drop his profits. So I asked him a question. What if you seamlessly buy from Nigeria and you sell easily to customers without having to face all these hitches on the road? And what if you consider selling to Central African Republic, which is just beside us? He was like, that's a good idea. And I was like, okay, that's what AfCFTA is for you, to facilitate trade between young people and to help us grow. So I was just trying to help him see the perspective, and I came to realize that a lot of young people are not aware of the AfCFTA and its benefits for us. So one takeaway I will suggest for all of us here is to make it a point of duty to read about it and to inform others about it in our local communities, in our little angles, wherever we are coming from. It's very important. So I will talk about how the AfCFTA has been beneficial to me. Please permit me read my vision statement. It's on my website, www.blackandnatural.com. Our vision is to be among the top 5 companies across Africa in the natural cosmetic industry, and to contribute in the eradication of poverty through job creation for both skilled and unskilled labor in the next 5 to 10 years. I will take the first part of it again. To be among the top 5 companies across Africa. So before I learned about the AfCFTA, I had already had my vision in my head. I want to sell across Africa. Cameroon is not enough for me. So if I have to sell across Africa, what do I have to think about? I have to think about organic certifications, I have to think about bulk productions, I have to think about how I will access other markets. So this is, AfCFTA provides that platform whereby I can easily, trade here, I can trade in Nigeria, I can penetrate Ghana, I can penetrate Southern Africa. And I would say I was privileged to be here in September in Dar es Salaam to exhibit some of my products. So that was already step 1 to trading. And it was an exciting opportunity because I got to engage with other people in the cosmetic industries. I saw how they package, I saw their marketing strategy, we even exchanged contacts and we collaborated. I also noticed that coconut oil, which is one of my base ingredients, is so cheaper here in Tanzania than it is in Cameroon. So I had to engage with one of the other entrepreneurs I found, and I was like, okay, how do I get coconut oil from here to Cameroon? And now the next issue was transportation. It's liquid. I cannot carry it in the plane. It's going to be, I think I will face issues with the immigration. So I have to also consider how I can easily transport things from one part of Africa to the other. And I will recommend that this is one issue that the AfCFTA should look into, an easy means of transportation whereby we can transport goods and services from one angle of Africa to the other at very little cost, because we are entrepreneurs and we are startups and we don't have, one of our key objectives is always to cut costs. So I got to engage, I got to sell, I got to network, I got to collaborate. It was an amazing opportunity. And I felt honored that as a young entrepreneur with the little I'm doing, it's being recognized. So I would like to talk equally about how the challenges I face as an entrepreneur here in Africa and how it can be addressed. I mentioned earlier organic certification. I'm in the natural cosmetic industry. So we as Africans, we should know that people claim they are organic and they are not organic. For example, we use a lot of bleaching cream. I don't know, it's very peculiar in West Africa, where they will say, oh, organic cream, organic cream, organic cream, 2-3 days later, you're already white. So because of that, it's very important that we in the natural cosmetic manufacturing industry, in this sector, we should have certifications that they are already existing, but they are quite expensive. I'm a startup. I go on the FDA list and check the Federal Drugs Administration to check the procedure to get an organic certification from them, and they're calling me $20,000. That's about my capital. I cannot pay that kind of money. It's quite expensive. So if they can break down the barriers for people who, I think there are other people, entrepreneurs in food manufacturing who equally need these kind of organic certifications to show the authenticity of their products. So if they can put down some of these barriers, to be friendly to entrepreneurs, to young people, they should not compare us with bigger brands like L'Oreal, Revlon, and all those other people who have already well established. So maybe they can, all these barriers that to facilitate trade, is like if they can bring down the cost, that will be very good for us. Equally, we all know all entrepreneurs, if you ask them what's your main issue, they'll tell you financing. But it's not just about financing, it's about how do you use these finances for what it is intended. I will take an example of the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. I'm a TEF alumni. So what they do is they don't just give you money, seed capital, do this in your business. They give you, okay, this is how you should run your business. Look at your vision board, look at your marketing strategy, what is your target market, how is your production cost, how do you cost your products? You know, there is a long list of things that entrepreneurs, that are key to running a business. So if you just give somebody, oh, take this $50,000 and invest it in your business, and you don't monitor the person or see the processes, how this money is being applied, the person can divert the funds and use it for something else, and you will not even hold the person accountable for it. So I think in as much as we consider financing businesses, we should also consider providing business knowledge on how these finances are being applied, how they can be held accountable for whatever thing they are doing with whatever business they are handling. So that's my own little contribution. Thank you very much.
Yes. Mechi there is a true testament that if you give youth an opportunity to do whatever they are doing, they do it nicely. And of course, that again speaks to the fact that the AfCFTA itself is mainly youth-centered. The AfCFTA is youth-focused. And of course, it's important to note, young entrepreneurs like Mechi, small and medium business enterprises, constitute about 80% of the African trade itself. So it's very important to give them time, address their challenges, and it's good that we've joined with Mheshimiwa here, my good sister, Nusrat, welcome. I know we had you yesterday and people enjoyed your energy yesterday, but welcome. She's the Member of Parliament in the Tanzanian Parliament. Jameni, you clap for Mheshimiwa Jameni. Yeah, she's here for us. And it shows you when you give youth an opportunity to lead, they will represent. And this is one of the representation. I know in your docket, this is one of the mandates, unless otherwise, but youth engagement, youth representation. And we are thankful that she has been with us 2 days in a row. And I know you're a busy lady, but thank you for taking time to engage with us. Asante. Please, a round of applause. Yes, so, and before I proceed, Mechi, as you were speaking, my brother Lennon was itching. He's like, I have something to add on. She's raising very critical points that I would want to just add 1 or 2 ideas on it. Yes, my brother.
Thank you so much, my brother moderator. And the boot campers are here. They can attest to some of the discussions that we had over the past week around Agenda 2063. The AfCFTA is just but one of the major flagship projects of Agenda 2063. And she lamented around the issue of movement of goods. And amongst these flagship projects of Agenda 2063 are key pillars that I think, even within the framework of EU-Africa cooperation, we can look at. One of them is a high-speed train throughout that connects Africa, free movement of people, protocol, common African passport, the Great Inga Dam, and I think if you spend some time the next few days with some of the boot campers, they'll be able at ease to explain some of the big flagship projects of Agenda 2063, which I think over and above the CFTA, because they speak very closely to the CFTA, these goods, her cosmetics, cannot move on their own. She needs to facilitate her travel. So that means visa on arrival, that means movement, even flying. It's very difficult. It was very difficult for me coming from South Africa to come to the beautiful land of Tanzania. I had to go to Ethiopia first, flew over the East Africa region, flew over Tanzania, came back this side, largely because we still have challenges even on movement. So I think it's very important that we as young people should work towards not looking at one issue that is being championed at a time, because at some point we spend a lot of time looking at silencing the guns. But it's just but one of the flagship projects of Agenda 2063. Let's look at it holistically, how the CFTA is connected to other flagship projects of Agenda 2063. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, clap please, Yes, thank you. And you remind me that infrastructure is really key to trade. You can't do anything without proper infrastructure. And I'm looking forward to the Trans-African Highway. I think that highway from Pretoria or Cape Town to Alexandria in Egypt, we really look forward to that. And of course, the maritime, Africa is still struggling to develop its maritime trade. And this, of course, comes back to infrastructure investment. I am happy my country, Uganda, is trying to create a highway into DRC, and it's opening up markets for our DRC youth. Since now they're part of the EAC, the map is there. Those who don't know yet, DRC is part of the East African community. We are now many, we are growing. We are the biggest REC with the biggest youth population, which is kudos to Mheshimiwa here for pushing that we get these, the DRC join the East African community so that our African youth in DRC also get to benefit from that. Before we go to our policy makers, I know my brother Joseph has been listening, and my sister Grace has been online also ardently listening. I now want to give it back to you shortly, Joseph and my sister Grace, to also share some of those things that Youth Connect is doing specifically in terms of youth engagement. I know we had His Excellency Wamkele Mene joining us in October in Kigali, but also, of course, my brother Joseph, the Funguo innovation, what that is. I will come back to you briefly, but let me just give it back to my audience. My audience, quickly, I know you will have more time, but this is just small to engage you here. I want one of you, give me the motto of the AfCFTA Secretariat, AfCFTA itself. What is that motto? What is the motto of the AfCFTA? Mechi has been explaining and discussing and expounding. Not again, Malawi. Is it Zambia, Malawi?
Zambia, a different person.
Let's get the EAC.
Raise up your hand, raise up your hand.
We're saying Tanzania and we're all shouting, Tanzania, where are you? This is our home. Yes. What is the motto of the AfCFTA?
Yeah, let's hear from the gentleman here.
Let's get the Ikoyaka champion of Tanzania.
Hello?
Yes.
So the motto is creating one African market.
Yes, the motto is creating a one African market. A round of applause for him. Yeah. Yes, and that alone tells you he's the AfCFTA Youth Advisory Council Tanzania chapter champion, and I expect him to know this. Yes, so back to my panel here, back to my panel. I think let me just quickly dash online, then come back to Joseph. My sister Grace, in the land of 1,000 hills. Youth Connect has been really doing amazing work over the years. We're celebrating, I think, an anniversary of recent. So just to give it back to you, looking at how the Youth Connect is supporting young entrepreneurs, what are some of those initiatives? Or what are some of us, maybe we could start on the challenges and the opportunities that are existing now within the AfCFTA, but more specifically, what Youth Connect is doing to ensure that our young entrepreneurs from all over the chapters that Youth Connect exists in the African continent, what are some of those initiatives that we are doing to ensure that our youth take advantage of the AfCFTA? Yes, my sister Grace. Is she available? Yes, control. Are we good? Okay, I think as they fix it, as they fix the virtual participants, maybe if before she comes through, let me give it to my brother, Joseph. Joseph, I know UNDP Tanzania office is doing quite amazing work, championing youth entrepreneurs, especially helping them. Mechi there was raising critical issues in terms of financing, financial literacy, which is of course very key. We have partners pumping a lot of money in billions into these young entrepreneurs. Yesterday, I think I was talking to the boot campers and I was telling them, most of them apply for these funds. The next day you see they're driving new cars, they've changed their apartments, and they're looking very fly. So the idea is how then, what is UNDP doing to then ensure that we stop that trend of youth taking advantage of these funds that are meant to let them own their own development? What is those initiatives that UNDP is doing to, especially in Tanzania here, the Funguo innovation? What is that, and how is UNDP championing that? Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think that's a very good question. But before I get to that, I think it's important to kind of appreciate the panel. What they have been raising quite important things in the preamble of CFTA itself, because as you said, TSA is about opening, it's about creating one market for Africa. And we all know that Africa is the youngest continent. We are talking about over 60% of the population of Africa being under 25, which means whichever we do, whether we are in government or not, whoever is in government is actually supposed to be working for the youth. Otherwise, if they don't do that, then they are creating a crisis they're not going to be able to solve. And how do we do that? I think the theme for this convening is quite on point: digital access and future of work. We cannot ensure the sustainable future of Africa if we don't have the youth working, if we don't create an opportunity for youth to be able to work. And that can be achieved by so many opportunities right now. I think we are talking about digital access, we're talking about emerging technological advancement, which can actually make people work from wherever they are. The question is, how are we taking advantage of that? How are we preparing the youth to actually take advantage of that kind of opportunity that are being brought about by the technology advancement? I think this is something that should also be within the purview of the CFTA. I think Bosco before touched on the issue of capital and financial access, which has all been touched by my sister there. That's just one element, because one, we agree that for the youth to be able to be gain-free, not employed, but productive, of course, they need means of production, and that touches on money or funds or whatever you can call it. But fund is not enough. You can have that all the money you want if the technical abilities to be able to use that money productively. We end up with what we just said. We've been talking about grantee-preneurs across Africa. This is something we want to eliminate. But we're also talking about the technical assistance, the capacity. That's what Alistair Mechi was touching on. What do we do to make sure that even if we have access to the finances, at least they are used gainfully to lift the number of people out of the street looking for jobs? So that's number one. But for us, we look at not just financing, not just capacities, but what about the policies? Because you can have both finances and capacities, but if the policies are not conducive enough, then all going to go to waste. So I'm just leading to what basically Fungo does. As you said, Fungo is an initiative of UNDP Tanzania. It's one of the many initiatives that UNDP is trying to implement. And what we look at, for those who don't speak Swahili, Fungo means keys. And keys are meant to unlock doors, you know. So we are trying to unlock the potential of young people to be able to create a sustainable future for themselves. And we do that by doing three main things. One, it's providing catalytic funding for some of the promising startups. We started with Tanzania. And that's just to help them become more attractive to other funders. So the catalytic funding we provide just small, but to be able to de-risk them so they can, I think at least banks can be able to talk to them, or at least so they can be seen by the VCs that are flocking to East Africa. So that's number one. But number two, we also touch on the issue of capacity. We have a lot of innovation enablers that we call them. So you talk about these business development service providers, the innovation hubs, accelerators, and everything. So we are looking at how can we partner with them to make sure that at least we strengthen the service that are being offered to these young people. Because if you just provide money without addressing this other element, that's we get to the misuse of this funding. But we also believe that even if we do those two excellently, if the enabling environment is not conducive, then nothing is going to happen. So we're also working with the policymakers, we're working with the government to create engagement platform for these startups to be able to engage with the policymakers, with development partners, so they can actually know where they're coming from. Because I was saying that sometimes we do blame the policymaker that they're not coming up with policies that work for the young people, but most of them don't necessarily understand what the young people need. Most of them don't necessarily understand when you talk about startup, what do you mean? So recently we've been debating on whether Tanzania needs a startup act or whether we can just amend the existing SME act, SME policies. Like, those are two different things. So what we're trying to say, okay, let's see what others are doing. I think it's a good thing that we're having this conversation among the countries that are here. We know a number of them that are enacting startup acts. So that's one area that we can be able to learn from each other to actually understand why do we actually need startup act. What we believe is that what works for more established enterprises and business doesn't necessarily work for startups or early stage businesses. So the kind of policy, I think somebody has talked about the certification, that kind of process that you have to go through, the kind of cost you have to pay. For a big company, that's not a thing, because they can employ people to do that. They can be able to pay those fees. But for a startup, the moment you kind of subject them to those kind of lengthy and costly processes, you are already killing them before they start. So those are the things that you're trying to bring that conversation forward to be able to have it. So UNDP is supporting that process, but we are not doing that alone. We are working with partners. We are very grateful to the European Union because they are the one who are funding the Fungo at the moment. We are also working with the British government. And we are in discussion with the other partners to be able to support this, because if we are going to make the youth productive, we really have to give them the means. So I think our Sister Grace is going to be talking about Youth Connect, the other kind of initiative that UNDP is pursuing. And all those are avenues that we need to pursue to be able, but that's not enough. And I think we need to start thinking beyond borders. This is just an initiative that's started in Tanzania, but we are looking how can we loop that into the other initiatives that other people are doing. And well, I think it's encouraging what's happening within the purview of CFTA. We are seeing quite a number of partnerships being born. Somebody talked about the logistical challenges, transportation. I mean, you're talking about digital infrastructure as well. But recently when I saw KQ now joining hands with the South African Airways, like, okay, this is actually the route we should be going. That if we need to create the open sky that we're talking about, I think we need to have stronger airlines. So what does that mean for other countries? Competition, yes, but I think we need more collaboration than just competition. So I can stop there for now, but briefly without taking much time, because I know people have been listening for a long time. That's what UNDP is trying to push, and that's the kind of collaboration we're looking at. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a good one. Funguo, opening more doors for young entrepreneurs. And of course, in this digital age, especially with the COVID-19, we know that most businesses, youth businesses, were struggling. But to see the rate at which youth are adopting tech is amazing. And I think tech is the way to go. It's very cost effective. Mechi there was telling us you could buy from wherever, just on your phone, in your bedroom, and you're getting goods at your doorstep. Yes, and of course, the idea now is to promote with the PAPs. The ED of EABC was talking about the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, that then is also there to champion exchange of money. You use your shilling, me from Uganda or ESC, and I get whoever is getting in Pula in Botswana. Yes, so the idea is to see that we now embrace tech, and Fungu, I think, is one of those great initiatives. And of course, I hope they can now scale it up in the ESC region and let it not be a prototype only implemented in Tanzania, if we can also have other member states implement that, or country offices actually do that. So yes, let me now go to the country of 1,000 hills. It's amazing to see my beautiful sister there joining us virtually. Grace, welcome. Before, I think I was calling on you to mainly, of course, give that context. Youth Connect has been here for some time. We were celebrating an anniversary a few months ago. And the idea is to see what is Youth Connect doing in terms of championing youth entrepreneurs. You're all over the African continent, and I think you have really done a lot in terms of youth investment in, of course, educating them, but also supporting their businesses. So what are some of those key initiatives that UNDP, Youth Connect is doing, but also some of the challenges? It would also be good to know what, as a partner in youth development, what are some of those challenges and the opportunity that exist now that we have the AfCFTA? How best are you preparing these amazing youth that you lead to take advantage of this amazing agreement that we have? Yes, welcome.
Thank you very much, moderator, and many thanks to the organizers of YouLead for the opportunity to participate in this very exciting forum, and particularly to talk about the AfCFTA and what it represents for Africa. I think all the speakers who have spoken really well to what the AfCFTA is, what it is as a mechanism, and have also spoken about some of the ways that as partners we're trying to address youth participation in the AfCFTA. Just to quickly say a little bit about what Youth Connect is currently doing. Youth Connect is a continental platform. We are working with 32 African member chapters. We work with youth empowerment ecosystems to address youth, enabling young people to participate actively as leaders, as economic agents, and we do that through various programs. So one of the things, or one of the responsibilities we have, given the particular role that we play, is informing policymakers in terms of innovative policies and how they can fast track empowerment of young people. With regards participation of youth in export, youth entrepreneurs in export, our dear sister who's on the panel spoke very well to the challenges that young entrepreneurs are facing right now. I think she spoke about the lack of information, the need for capacity building in terms of understanding how to grow businesses as entrepreneurs, but also understanding which policies are in place, which frameworks they can take advantage of. But then she also spoke about standardization and enabling an environment where both the traders and the clients can be protected. And I would like to speak to two things. One, at the level of Youth Connect Africa, we have received a call to action from young people. One, that as entrepreneurs, they desire that platforms like ours contribute to facilitating trade, facilitating entry in new markets. So that's one of the things that we'll be trying to do over the next few years. In 2021, we piloted an export accelerator and worked with 19 entrepreneurs from different countries, Cameroon, DRC, Uganda, and worked on building their capacity, but also aiming to identify what are the mechanisms that are required to get them ready for export. We saw that there's still a lot of work to be done in building their own capacities as businesses. Secondly, we need to simplify, as our sister on the panel said, simplify the process of certification. I don't think we need to lower the standards, but we need to simplify it and make it more accessible, less costly, and also easier to access for all entrepreneurs. At national level, we advocate that we need to identify and organize youth entrepreneurs who are manufacturing, because when we talk about the AfCFTA, our understanding that it should first and foremost benefit African-made products, whether those are raw material or further processed products. So identifying and organizing entrepreneurs is very, very important. Then building capacity and then ensuring that we have product certification is another way that we are further enabling these entrepreneurs to participate in regional trade. The other thing that we really want to encourage is that we need to build the culture of integrity and consistency among African manufacturers, because that is what's going to enable trade to move faster for African-made products. So ensuring that we are building a culture of integrity and consistency, and then, as colleagues have said it really well, enabling digital trade. I think this is an opportunity, unique opportunity for entrepreneurs who are in the room to start working on digital trade platforms at national level, and then also work on digital trade platforms that can be enabled at regional level. So that's something that we haven't fully unlocked. I applaud the initiative that our colleague at UNDP has just mentioned and the various initiatives that are in place right now. Let's continue to work collaboratively to ensure that we bring as many young people on board, and then we learn together how we can get more young people participating in regional trade. That would be our take. Thank you so much. And over to you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Grace, for that short, brief, but impactful submission. And I think it's important to note that Youth Connect is going to Kenya. Kenya in the house. Javeni, Youth Connect is going to Kenya, thanks to our able Deputy President, Mr. Rigiji, commonly known, for pushing, isn't it? Kenya and Javeni, my sister, I think you're ready to receive us next year. Yes, Grace, the first daughter said, you are welcome. I will also accompany you, I will carry your bags. We shall go. Asante. So thank you so much, Grace, for that impactful sharing. And I think before I come back to my panel, I know you've been itching to give your submissions. You've been itching to add on those discussions. And I would want to just guide a bit that I'm going to open the floor for a few of you to then share your thoughts before I come back to my panel here to share some of the critical issues then as way forwards and what is the AfCFTA Secretariat is doing to ensure that we leverage so much as youth on the AfCFTA Women and Youth in Trade Protocol, but also some of those key interventions that then will foster youth participation in the EU-AU economic integration. My focus so much is economic integration because the idea to me that I have is that trade is equals to peace. When people trade, they will not, as long as someone has a business, these youth have businesses, they will not go carrying stones and rioting because they will have something to guard. We saw what happened, the Black Lives Matter. Our unemployed youth in the US, I feel good to say this because at times what they picture, it seems that we are the ones who are unemployed, but unemployed youth from the US, we're actually targeting businesses over destroying businesses. But the idea now you see that if our youth are empowered, if our youth have businesses, the idea of engaging in violent extremist activities is minimal because they have something that is their own. So the idea, why we are championing through the AfCFTA Youth Advisory Council is our motto is youth to trade. This is not our motto, but the idea is youth, that trade is equals to peace. Trade is equals, when youth are then empowered to trade, they then foster their own peace because they're now cognizant of the fact that if you then go to the streets, you will ban your own business. It's very key for us to champion trade, to promote peace. If that is the approach, then we will succeed. Peace to trade, we have faced, it's hard, but trade to peace is a clear roadmap. So yes, so let me just give it back to you. Let me give it to you quickly, those raising hands, I don't know how many, but the gallery, my people up there, my people, I don't know if the mic, I would want to start with the upper people here. If the mic can go up, it would really be good to start from up there.
Yeah, let's start with the gallery and then he'll come.
Yes, it would be good to start from the gallery because they've been quite engaging and listening. So the idea is to share your thoughts. What do you think your role is in the AU-EU economic integration? But as a young entrepreneur, what are some of those challenges? And I would want to focus on opportunities. This is an idea generating room. Instead of focusing so much on the challenges, what do you think we can do? What do you think the AfCFTA Secretariat can do? What do you think the EU can do? What do you think the African Union can do? Get those thoughts, share those thoughts, and so that we can actually then have something that we could use to have you a champion, because the idea is to give it back to you. Let us own our own development. Agenda 2063, aspiration number 6, focuses on that youth and women taking charge of their own development. And there's no any other way than us sharing our thoughts. So let me see the first person.
Raise up your hand, kindly.
Yes, the gentleman here was the first.
Yeah, just tell us your name and
2 minutes.
The country.
2 minutes. Name, country, your
exactly.
idea.
I'll use only 2 minutes,
yes,
or less. My name is Ronald Regan Sebugenyi. I hail from the capital of Uganda, Kampala. I have only 2 concerns to put across. Number 1 is to do with paradigm shift in perception of financial transactions. I happen to run an online shop called Yuga Mall, but out of my experience with interaction of different markets, mainly in Kampala, I've come to notice that there is still a perception that online transactions are only reserved for the rich or the economically privileged. So I really want to bring it up to the people talking about the AfCFTA. What things have been put in place to make sure that there is a general shift in paradigm about perception of transactions. Then the other is about involvement of general populations, about issues to do with AfCFTA. You see, right here, we are gathering here as young people. Some of us are leaders, but Africa at large has bigger populations of young people. We're talking about 60% of the African population being under the age of 25. What initiatives have been taken to make sure that everything we discuss in this room sinks down to the populations of people that didn't make to this place? Maybe just as I conclude, just 1 minute, less than a minute left. We're talking about these things under closed doors. But when I sit back and reflect about what is being done in my country, I don't really see the government curating all its policies to make sure that such things are attained. What are the governments doing to make sure that, as we're talking about the AfCFTA, what are the governments doing to make sure that their youths will be in position to benefit from all these opportunities we're talking about? So much. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good points. Yes, before you leave the lady here.
A lady, yeah, sure.
Madam President will sack you,
Madam
my friend.
President, University of Nairobi. It's actually called the University of Nairobi, not Nairobi University.
Okay, good.
Thank you. My name is Melvin Dhogo from Kenya, and maybe it's also from a point of privilege. What I'm taking from here is and also to channel the APRM that will be channeled by who I also lead with. So for me, that is a personal that for them.
I think you've had personal commitment, 500 youth every year being capacitated. Madam President, thank you. That is power, my friend. You're exercising power now. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, a lady, and then a gentleman, and then you can go to the ground floor.
How many are those? No, if country, we are balancing now. We've had Uganda, we've had Kenya. No more Uganda, no more Kenya. Let's move to another country.
Different country, please. Nigeria, yeah, Nigeria, yes.
Nigeria, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Yumika Oguns. I'm a Nigerian. So I was also part of the boot camp that just finished. And I would say that learning about the AfCFTA has been quite eye-opening. And I look forward to going back home and being able to engage more youths. The comment I would like to make is that while we talk about the technical competencies that we need to be able to take advantage of the provisions of the CFTA, I think it's important that we look at the soft skills as well that we need to build youths who have global competencies that enables them fit into any sectors that they find themselves. I think that's one of the things I do back home, which is I'm involved in soft skills development for young people who are in entry and mid-level points in their careers. So I think that while we talk about the skills you need to be a good entrepreneur, the things you need, the problems you need to identify, strategic thinking is one aspect that would probably help us a whole lot. So while you're looking at problems, being able to look at it holistically and have a future view would also help. Additionally, knowing how to resolve conflict, knowing how to negotiate, knowing how to identify teams and work with people. These are some of the global competences that we need to talk more about and also invest more in for young people. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you, thank you.
Wonderful.
Before we come down, is there one person left?
A different country, kindly.
Okay, a different country, but
a gentleman in this case.
Yes, I would also want to engage our online participants. They are itching to speak. And then we will come to the floor here. But yes, which country? Tanzania. Yeah. Jameni, you are our host, Jameni. Don't sack me. Yes, we go.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Jamal Kipunde Yassin from Tanzania, as I mentioned. My question is, we have heard that people who are on the boot camp, they got an opportunity to get funding. What about the rest of us that we got ideas? where will we get that opportunity to get the funding? Thank you.
Hey. Where I also want that funding. I was also in the boot camp. Where is that money? Where is that money? I didn't see that money. Okay. I think we will answer to that. So let me go to quickly online. Bezawit, Driss. I hope this sounds Tunisian or Ethiopian. Could you hear us? You could just come in and share your thoughts. 2 minutes. If he's still preparing, can we have Miriam, Packworth, or Ryan? One of the three. If they're available, they could come through. My brother comes down. Daniel, you could come down with a mic. The floor is itching. I see hands. Hey, my friends, this is a time for you to shine. These things are going online. Share good ideas.
Hello, is it audible?
Good. This is Miriam.
No, this is Bezawit Shifarou. It is from Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, yes. Please, 2 minutes, yes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for giving us this chance. And as an Ethiopian youth, I really appreciate what the African Union and the European Union provided. And especially what I want to underline is grants and competitions for youth entrepreneurs can benefit a lot. Me also, I'm trying to do on some kind of projects, and also I have friends working on it. So these competitions or some kind of grants can help us to have some kind of economic startup. As you know, most of us just have ideas and we don't know how to start implementing. So competitions, grants, and plus some kinds of basic like trainings, online sessions can help us. That's what I suggest. And thank you everyone for giving this opportunity. And I would like to acknowledge everyone there. And I'm really sorry I'm not able to be there, but it's fine to be in the virtual session. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Bezawet. Miriam, I don't know if you're available. Could you come through?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm happy it's only the ladies taking charge. Where are the men online? The ladies are interested more than the men, huh? Okay, yes, Miriam, come through.
Yes, my name is Miriam from Uganda, and I'm the team. Yes, and I'm the team leader of BFAM. It's a resource mapping entity. So one thing that I have faced as a team leader is the intellectual patenting of our property is one thing that we have really failed to do because of so many limitations. I think that's one. Many of our youth have ideas, but patenting our intellectual property is a problem. And the second point is the aid model. According to a well-known economist, Damisa Moyo, our development rate has reduced by 0.2%. And she says that aid is a curse that pretends to be the cure. So what are our attempts to build our capacities to, first of all, to understand our challenges, because the aid model worked for other continents, but when it came to Africa, it didn't work because our problem is not lack of natural resources, but on how to use those natural resources. So I think investing more time on mapping what we have and on how to use what we have. Yes, thank you.
Good, thank you. Resource mapping, I think it's also key. When we look at the AfCFTA, it mainly encourages producing African, buy Africa, build Africa. So when we do resource mapping, then it helps, of course, to know that maybe in Eswatini, they have hide, and in Uganda, they can get that rubber. So at the end of the day, you assemble an African shoe from rubber from Uganda, hide from Eswatini, or the other way around. You go to Chad or Cameroon or Burkina Faso, pick products and bring. So the idea is a one African market. Buy Africa, build Africa. Yes, so are we back on the floor? I see. There were first hands. There were two ladies I saw. First
Yeah.
two ladies.
I think they are here. They are here.
Yes. There was one behind there with red lipstick. Yes. Good. Yes. Yes. And
Yeah, she's here.
and the lady here. Yes, she has been. Those are the first two. Then we could pick from the rest.
Yeah, carry on.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Eutropia James Mujunangoma. I'm coming from Tanzania. By profession, I'm an auditor. By titles, I'm the youngest board director of the Tanzania Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, TCCIA. So basically, I'm representing the Tanzania Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, I'm the board director of a family business called Nikki Electric Company. Thirdly, I'm the founder and CEO of my own industry.
Good. Yeah. Okay. This is it. Okay. Let's jump in. Let's jump in.
So, yes, I'm the founder and CEO of my own industry under the company name called Gracie Hair Products Limited. So what do we, the Tanzania Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, do to make AfCFTA possible?
Yes.
First, the most prosperous achievement that we do is we are the only organ that issue the certificates of origin in Tanzania in a semi-electronic form. It's the document that helps any exporter to export from Tanzania. You are sure to get the document the same date after payment. And payments are as follows. For the case of the East African countries, it just costs 9,500 Tanzanian shillings. That is to say, it is less than 5 USD. And for SADC countries, it costs 27,500 Tanzanian shillings. That is to say, it is 12 USD, to mention a few. Second, the chamber helps entrepreneurs to find markets, especially internally and as well as externally. External markets are possible if your products have barcodes and BS, to mention a few. And thirdly, it's the chamber's to greatly help youth, especially women, to become the best version of themselves. This is possible through sponsoring. Since I'm the youngest, so I get the chance to attend many youth conferences so that I can bring young women together to make them as financially independent as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause. Those who were listening, please. She's from the Accreditation Center, the Tanzanian Chamber of Commerce. The certificate of origin. Very important information, my friends. I know she began with the CV, which is amazing. Thank you for that CV, but she's sharing very good information for you young entrepreneurs here. My good sister here, she has been...
Oh, yeah. The popular captain.
Yes, it's what?
Yeah.
We are now going to our men. Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I have had burning questions, and these are directed to the panelists.
Thank you.
Number one, on free trade, we want to open up borders and ensure that African youth can trade. What have we done risk assessments to curb porous borders? Because we still have issues of terrorism and radicalization of young people. We open up borders, we end up with radicalization, we end up with porous borders even further than we are at. However, I must commend the AfCFTA, pardon me. The second risk assessment is, can we have one agenda? Is it that we want the informal sector to be formalized? And if so, how are we going to navigate taxing the informal sector? Because African governments can actually really benefit from taxing the informal sector and by making them formal. However, the unfortunate thing is that it's very easy for these taxes to be collected by African governments and not benefit the youth. They will not circulate into the economy. And looking at the same thing on digital opportunities, which I had today. I do not understand why still we do not have a tech company represented in the panel, because digital platforms and tech companies really benefit from African societies, yet they are not being held to account. And as I conclude, my apologies for taking forever, governments and Africans are encouraged to be investor friendly. When we're talking about investor friendly, we're looking at taking public debt, enabling tax incentives and tax expenditures. So while doing this, how are we going to curb the issue of illicit financial flows? If we...
Please, where is the mic, Jameni? These are good views, my friends. Eh? Is it working?
Okay.
Good.
As I conclude, for real now.
Yes.
My recommendation to the panelists and every group that's working with the youth, there is need to speak youthful language. I hate to sound rude, pardon my French, but people here, while we were discussing, I was listening and taking notes, but majority of the youth in this room were on their phones because there are very many technicalities in the language that we speak. So how can we get this AfCFTA document into a youthful language so that we have every single youth interested to be involved in this? And capacity awareness and the need for textile, can we read? And there's a reason as to why the textile industry failed in Nigeria. We cannot be giving recommendations yet. There's already research out there that has been done that says there is involvement from westernized countries. If you're from a westernized country, my apologies to you. The truth is the truth. There's a reason as to why these things fail. Illicit financial flows. There's a reason as to why Congo is so rich in resources and minerals, but we do not benefit from it. We must read and we must have honest and genuine conversations. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. Which country again?
Kenya, if I'm not wrong. I come from the same country.
Which country? Kenya. My sister Shalene, you see your people. You see the people you're grooming, huh? They are taking over. They are taking over. Good. Yes, let me go to my brother Faraji let me go to my brother Faraji there to share some of those thoughts. I know you're raising key critical issues, localizing the AfCFTA. The Youth Advisory Council is doing quite a lot. And of course, we will then be able to engage you as much. But let him share some of those initiatives quickly in 2 minutes, then we move to the next person. I see the hand. It's now the men, our ladies. Yes, I will. Yes, as we choose, yes.
Thank you very much. So my name is Faraj, I'm from Tanzania. I'm the country champion for ICOYACA, Independent Continental Youth Advisory Council in Tanzania. So I have observations and I have recommendations. And please give me 3 minutes if you don't mind. The reason why I said I have recommendation and observation, first of all, I want to say that today, at the end of the day, we're going to launch, that is what is called Business Leaders Forum. We have the Independent Continental Youth Advisory Council, which does almost similar things. So the first question I wanted to ask, how many of us knows about ICOYACA? How many of us? So ICOYACA has 1 year, and it was a program that was launched last year. And we have not achieved as much as we're expecting, and then we're going to launch another program. From my point of view as an observation, if we're not gonna prepare programs, projects that are going to benefit youth, and then we introduce the new ones, what is the point of having those programs? So I want us to reflect on this as the first thing, because we keep on introducing a lot of programs, we keep on bringing a lot of activities, but we're not working on them. We're not getting the results that we're looking for. The sad news that I want to start saying here, I was going outside, and I reflected a lot of young people are going outside. A lot of people. Most of young people are just claiming not getting an opportunity to come here to participate in this event. But we have a lot of young people who came here, who were leveraged to have this opportunity, and they're not being here, participating. This is really sad. Like, it's really, really bad. And the worst thing, as my sister said, most of people on their phones. I think one of the biggest challenge or mistake we're doing is that we're also doing a wrong profiling. If we are preparing for the events that has to cater for certain activities, let's try to divide and put people in the right places. If we're going to say that it's business related, we have people who are coming from organizations. The agenda has nothing to do with business. It's organization related activities. So next time, if we're going to prepare this kind of events, let's at least have blocks. Business related block, go this side. Policy related, go this side and the other sides. Because this will help us at least to reach the right goals of the things that we want to achieve. At the end, we're going to be discussing here, and no one is going to be implementing anything. And we'll be wasting time. Now, coming back on the recommendations.
In 1 minute.
I hope it's going to be 1 minute. So on the panel, we have most of the policymakers and not implementers. We don't have hubs. We don't have the organizations that are representing SMEs. And these are the people that are working directly with those people. How are we going to be having such kind of panels every single day of our events? And then at the end, how are we expecting to be implemented? Yet, appreciate, we know that you're working so hard to help us and get there. But the implementers are not here. The banks are not here. We need them to tell us how are they going to support us on AfCFTA. We don't have hubs that are grooming the startups. These are the people that are working directly with the startups. We don't have people that are representing SMEs. I'm expecting TCCIA was there because they know those things that are working with them, but we don't have those people. So can we try next time to observe that and see how we're going to be working on such areas? But also, on the part of the negotiation and some of the implementation of the programs that we're going to do, we're having a lot of boot camps, but what are the follow-up? Once we do these activities, last year we had a boot camp. Do we have a result? Has it been presented? We don't have. So what are we progressing in? The ICOYACA has 54 representatives in Africa. How many from ICOYACA are here? We are the ones who have been trusted.
30 seconds.
We are the ones who have been trusted to lead youth in business.
Yes.
And only 3 of us are here. This is really bad. The people who are qualified to lead certain activities are not the people who have been selected to do that. How are we expecting? Yesterday we kept on talking about issues of if I become a president, I want to do this. If I want to become, you're not going to become if you're not going to be committed towards the things that you want to implement. So let's try to find a way on how to do proper selections and things that have to be relevant to the things that we're doing. And lastly, to my fellow youth, all of us are jumping into asking for funds and grants. But the true fact is not funds what we want. We need youth that are committed to implement the strategies that we're having here. The truth is, once these ideas have been suggested, you don't need 5 million to start doing business. You just need a strategy. Just show an interest, start something, and let these people support us.
Okay.
Because we keep on blaming them, but the true fact is that we're also not ready. We keep on asking for capacity building. There's a lot of capacity building. But for you to do a sale of a certain product, it doesn't need capacity building. So also let's come back to ourselves and reflect on activities that we want to do. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me defend my panel. My panel are implementers, my friends. These people are running the show. They are implementing. They are not policy makers. They are actually policy implementers. They draft policies but also implement at the same time. So, and that's why you see it comprises of all categories, and they're mainly youthful. So they are our people. We are also promoting them. We are talking about youth inclusion in different aspects of development, and this is a representation of that. So, my friends, my panel is protected. Sindio? Yes, I see. Yes, I expected my brother to share the outcomes of the bootcamp, is the AfCFTA, what they are doing, and so on. But anyways, we will be able to. So we are doing the last 2 people. Who are the last 3 people?
This row, David.
The one who answers the question. The one who answers the question gets the mic. Number 1, how many countries have signed the AfCFTA agreement? If you answer the question. No chorus answers, no chorus answers. How many have signed the AfCFTA agreement? Who is saying what? I'm not hearing. 44 is wrong. All the 44 sit down. All the 44 sit down. How many? 54. Which country? Which country? South Africa. Give him the mic. He has answered.
South Africa, kindly.
You answer my question, you get the mic now. Hey, no more chorus answers. Hey.
Thank you very much, moderator.
Yes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, we move.
I'm Spila Jamini from South Africa.
Yes.
I'm the CEO of an SME called Lihau Industries. And I'm also the author of this book here called Magic and Other Authentic Experiences.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to be very short because we don't have time.
Exactly.
And the tea is getting cold.
Yes.
One of the biggest issues.
You mean the lunch?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, yes.
One of the biggest issues that we have not tackled when it comes to policy implementation at large is regional and national security. The threats within and the threats without. President Zuma, former president of South Africa, and President Kagame have spoken quite at large about this to the AU, that we have so many policies and we could implement them, but there are external factors and internal factors within our own countries and outside, especially coming from the West, that aim to ensure that whatever we try to do, because they benefit from African countries not being at the helm of charting their own destiny. So our policies need to also have sections where we start saying, what are we going to do when it comes to national security? With the implementation of the continental free trade, what is our stance on regional security?
Yes.
What mechanisms are we putting in place? But also, to quote my grandfather, he says, what is good for Africa, we will keep, but what is not, we do not want. That is a stance we must then, I think, all our states start to take radically, because we will come here, implement and adopt policies, and then we have states that will go back to their countries and not implement. We have no sanctions. We have no actual way of following up. We have no key point indicators whatsoever as to what is being done and not being done. So in fact, most of our policies are for vibes. So we need to be more radical in the implementation of policies for Africa's future, especially the ones we're discussing here today.
Thank you. Good point. Very good point. And my brother Lennon, I think, was itching to speak, but he will speak about that. What are some of the M and E's of these amazing AU instruments that we have? And I know your institution is directly in line with that, and that's why it was established. So another question, whoever answers the question gets the mic. You have it, but answer my question. Answer my question. You're not going to speak for free. Eh? Yes. So a quick one. A quick one on the AfCFTA. Again, a quick one. How many people will potentially benefit from the AfCFTA? How many Africans will potentially benefit from the AfCFTA? How many?
1.3.
How much? How many?
1.3.
1.3. Try again. Who else? Who else? So the mic is gone. The mic is gone. The mic is gone. How many people will benefit? How many? 300 million. 300 what? 300 million. You added 10, my friend. 30 million came here. 30 million came here. You added 10, my brother. But because of that, you almost, I will give you 2 minutes. Yeah. Who said 2 chorus answers? He said 30 million, yes. Good. He's a boot camper, by the way. Yeah, advice, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, good. 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Precious Dipili. I am from Malawi. I'm an entrepreneur. I am the founder and CEO of Awao Malawi. Firstly, thanks to the transformative work that AfCFTA, UNECA, and YouLead and IDC is doing. But we would like to have, I would like to concur with my sister here that we would like to have a simplification of the communication on AfCFTA. We would like young people to understand what AfCFTA is in simpler terms. And another thing, Mechi was talking about certification, the fees. Why can't we have a subsidy on taxes, fees for youth and women-led businesses? And another thing, we are very much appreciative of the payment system, the PAPS payment system, and we would like to have the push for it. And lastly, if you guys don't know about I am the year advisor to ITC. If you guys don't know the year community, go on the site, year community, sign up, and also benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. I am getting off the floor. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, my brother. Then the next question, as you will Google. I don't want to give you the next question now. Let him finish. 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'll keep my 2 minutes. So
Yes.
I'm Christopher Alvin Mokaya. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, the founder and CEO of Mokaya Leadership Consulting,
Yes.
which we consult on business and training. I'm also the Deputy Regional Associate for Youth Alliance for Leadership and Development in Africa. And by the way, we are doing work with the AfCFTA Secretariat to create awareness about the trade under AfCFTA. But one challenge I've realized from that, before the AfCFTA the Secretariat tells us go and create awareness about this trade, then I think there should be a standard module of creating this awareness, because awareness cannot be just awareness about trade. We can't control what our officials are doing in Uganda, in Ethiopia, what we are doing vis-a-vis what we are doing in Kenya. So there needs to be standardization is very important when we are talking about cross-border issues. And speaking about standardization, we also have to speak about the capacity building that we are trying to run away with. From. We cannot run away from capacity building and training. So I humbly submit to you, having read the AfCFTA Secretariat agreement, that there needs to be a permanent African Trade Leadership Institute, which will offer leadership in terms of the AfCFTA trade, so that there is a standard body that is a go-to body with all the technical knowledge about the exact how to trade under the AfCFTA. Because as it were, we are not creating that huge market of the 54 African countries to only trade with ourselves. Of course, it will be intra-African trade,
Yes.
but we also want to compete with the Chinese goods. So we need to up our skills. We must be standard. And speaking of MSMEs, you know, in Kenya, the first daughter's father is talking about the bottom-up economic model, because we have so many micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. But then they also need for us to facilitate all through the AfCFTA Secretariat, because it's working with the Council of Ministers of the member countries to ensure these informal enterprises are facilitated to formalize. Because you find a trader in Gikomba going to take 2 bales or 2 containers of bales from China, traveling all the way. Another same trader from the same market is doing the same thing. If these people would have aggregated themselves and formed a kind of organization or network through facilitation of the member relevant Ministry of Trade and Industry, they would have even done it as a group. So that must also be cascaded towards the relevant authorities. So thank you.
I know you're a politician. I'm like, my brother, when he holds the mic, he doesn't want to let go. But those are good points. And yes, so I want one last participant. You answer my question, you get the mic. One last one. How many countries are under the guided trade initiative of the AfCFTA? The first hand. How many? Don't Google, my friends. Me, I was here presenting. How many countries are under the guided trade initiative? You answer that, you get the mic. Take the show, my friends. Yeah, women power, my friend. Yes, you get the mic. I'm not hearing you. You tell us the countries, my friend.
7.
Tell me the countries.
Kenya, Ivory Coast, Tanzania, Ghana, Cameroon.
My friend. Okay, my friend. Okay, just give your point. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Martha from Kenya. I'm a computer scientist and also an advocate for an Africa that is no longer an afterthought through my newsletter. And my submission is particularly to the Secretariat, if they can consider an extension officer sort of program. I remember in Kenya during the Kibaki government, they had agricultural extension officers where they went to the farmers themselves and they worked with them. And by the end of it all, that was the time Kenya had the largest yield of maize. So I wonder if the Secretariat can consider such a kind of program for the AfCFTA, where they work with the governments and the SMEs, and the officers go to to the SMEs and the MSMEs themselves, and they educate them on the AfCFTA and anything that is upcoming. Because at times when we are young and we have access to the internet, we take for granted that we have the access. A lot of people don't have the access, and they don't take the initiative. But when you go to them, it becomes easier to implement the AfCFTA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, clap for her. Our last, what's your name again? What's your name again?
Martha.
Martha.
Martha Muiru, Kenya.
Ah, good. Coffee with you. Sindio, we will go for coffee and discuss more on this digital trade that you're talking about. So let me come back to my panel. I know you've been very amazing. You've been very engaging. Please clap for yourselves. Please clap for yourselves. Very engaging. And this is good. It's good when we throw up these teasers here and you get engaging and you get answering these questions. And the thoughts you've shared, of course, are really, really amazing. I give kudos to you. And now back to my panel as we wind up. I will start with the Secretariat, capacity building, every finance. Someone actually had that there's some money that was given to boot campers. I know the boot camp officials are here. I also want that money, my friend. I'm also looking for that money. But let me start with my sister Yafika. I know you've been capturing, but as you answer that, then you also wind it up with some of the upcoming negotiations of the Protocol of Women and Youth. Where is the Secretariat now? Yes.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So I think what I didn't mention previously was what work has gone into the protocol, and it answers most of your questions that were raised. So the Secretariat has done some work towards the protocol, which is consultative meetings with women in cross-border trade, youth, and we've put out surveys. We did collect information in Tanzania, and that information would inform some of the key issues that would address in the protocol. So some of the findings were that many people needed capacity building beyond just what the AfCFTA is, but also how to manage funds, how to build a sustainable business. And also for cross-border traders, they wanted legal and tech mechanism put in place that would protect them beyond just us saying that we are protecting them. They need policies that speak to that, and that's policy that's simplified for them to understand and be able to say, I know my rights, and this is how, if my rights are not followed, I can go to this place to say I was abused. So in that way, we are also holding countries accountable in implementation and making sure that trade under the AfCFTA is sustainable and benefiting those that we're saying it will benefit. So access to finance, they said we should need to create policy and financial mechanisms that facilitate youth access to funding, which is maybe you could come out as a group to get money so that you don't need to have maybe land in order to have collateral, but as a group, you are able to get the funding that you need for your business. And leadership and support young leaders and women in how to take charge of their own financial futures, and telling them that beyond just having maybe a tomato business, you can add value to that business in order to have build industries that are sustainable and that trickle down to the communities in which you live. Access to information. My sister wanted the simplification of AfCFTA language. I am glad to share that the ESC is one of the countries, the region that had said that they're working on the simplification of AfCFTA language through their national implementation committees. I just forgot the Honorable Minister's name, but it was mentioned. So I think the Tanzanians would share more on that. Yes. And then we are also looking to, through the national implementation committees, which is some of the work that UNECA is working on, is to simplify the languages for the different protocols that we are working on, including the women and youth in trade, digital trade, into the local languages, so that beyond us in the room who know how to speak English, we are able to have a person who only speaks Kinyarwanda or Chichewa to understand what the agreement is and how they can benefit and utilize the benefits that it brings and how it will help in integrating Africa beyond, and what is the bigger picture in the end, beyond just maybe trading with Zambia. What are we trying to achieve? And then I think the sister there who spoke about the AfCFTA maybe coordinating with countries and key stakeholders to go to entrepreneurs and tell them about the AfCFTA, I think that would be informed by the work that we will be doing with the national implementation committees, which looks to not just work with ministries, but also with key stakeholders within the different areas of trade, agribusiness, or tech, to be able to simplify how the agreement would benefit them and how they should utilize it in terms of, if you selling peanut groundnuts, how do you then add value to it and make peanut butter in Tanzania, or you make peanut butter in Arusha, beyond your small industries, and elevate and accelerate. I know, what was her name again? She spoke about the safety of countries if you open up borders. All these things are being considered. We're not just looking at it in one perspective. And as my brother from APRM had said, that the AfCFTA is just one tool of the many other flagship projects of the AU. So we are, as much as, yes, now we're just AfCFTA, but we are working in collaboration with other flagship projects to make sure that it's not just the AfCFTA, but it's the AfCFTA plus the other tools that are there to make sure that when economic integration does happen, we are safeguarded from all these other things that might come, and make sure that even if it's trading with China or trading within Africa, we are safe because it's Africa-based, and African products by Africans are safeguarded, and small economies are protected in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Round of applause, Javeni. Yes, yeah, that is good. That is good. And I know, of course, the negotiations on the Protocol of Women and Youth, yes?
Yes, so the negotiations this week, as I'm here, the first committee meeting is ongoing. So in the coming year, we'll have more negotiations start as soon as the committee has reviewed their terms of reference, and then they'll start reviewing the drafts that have been proposed to them for consideration. And then I think more engagement will be shared on the way forward. Currently, I cannot share much, but that is all that we're currently doing.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to be the person between the lunch and the next engagement, but quickly, my brother Lennon, as just to, I know the lady raised very critical issues on M&E. Probably maybe briefly on before my brother Adam comes in, on what the APRM is and what it's doing and what is the mandate, because I think
thank you so much. I'll be extremely brief before, because I've now spoken 3 times and my other panelists have not spoken. But even before I give my contribution, I just want to thank the exemplary contribution by a sister from Kenya, the SRC president. She, instead of demanding what YouLead or the development partners do, or she rather gave a commitment of what she's going to do to make sure that some of these flagship projects, these protocols, can be reached at a local community, say 500. And I think it's something that by the end of this YouLead summit, all of us, especially those that were funded to come here, should take home to then say, this is what I'm going to do in my local community. But just to go back to what the African peer review mechanism is, it's a monitoring tool for good governance on the African continent, very voluntary, 42 member states. An interesting part of the APRM now is that one of the 4 thematic areas of the APRM is economic governance and corporate governance, which speaks to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And there is an agreement, and the tool has been created in partnership with the AfCFTA, UNDP, and UNECA to then develop a tool to monitor how countries are starting to trade. And a very interesting part of my participation here, and rather the APRM as well at large, is that we to look at how youth can be incorporated, tracking youth's participation within the CFTA. But lastly, because I know this is the last time I'm holding the mic, I just want to encourage young people, especially given the fact that we're having two discussions around the CFTA and Europe-Africa relations, to then ask themselves questions around the ideology. What is it that we have to offer to Europe as much as we get cooperation, especially financing, because our relationship at some point needs to be a win-win relationship. And we should then not betray some of the ideals that were set forward by our forefathers around Pan-Africanism, while we are cooperating in that African trade, African development should be led, and the agenda around development should be led by Africans, and we should never compromise that. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. It's a good one. It's a good one. So I will jump quickly to Juso. My colleagues at the floor were raising critical issues on feeling like they are being hijacked. I had illicit money, I had whatever, but mainly on the EU's objective of strengthening the AU partnership. Why is the EU so much interested? Probably, if you give that context, it will then kind of reduce the nerves. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you look at the challenges that we discussed, we're looking at digital transformation, we're looking at climate change. Those are global issues, and of course, they require global solutions. And I think there's just no solving these issues without Africa and Europe working together. And I believe that, I mean, of course, you may have seen problematic political statements in the recent months as well, but I believe that there is genuine commitment to a mutually beneficial Africa-Europe partnership, and to leaving behind this exploitative past. For example, with coronavirus vaccines, for example, the European Union, it made a lot of investments in Africa, also having production capacity of its own. So this is precisely the idea of not just buying goods, but being able to produce them yourself and to be a more independent actor in the global markets. So I really believe that there is this genuine willingness for Africa to be independent and really a global partner. But yeah, it is beneficial because we just cannot solve these global issues without Africa being involved in that. I think that is the most inspiring thing I can say. Otherwise, I'll just say that there is the access to markets help desk of the Trade Department of the European Commission. So this access to markets help desk is precisely about providing information to exporters and importers for the European single market about what are the particular requirements and opportunities. So this is exactly about this information for businesses that we have discussed within the AfCFTA. So this resource also exists for the European market, which can be interesting if you're interested in intercontinental trade. But yes, I really believe that this is the mission for the next decades, and we as young people, I believe we will be working together for decades to come.
Thank you. If we're clapping, let's clap. Let's clap if we are clapping. Thank you. So yes, my brother Adam, I know you were itching to speak. Some of the ideas that were shared, I think you wanted to add on, but quickly, as you also wind up on the same that you picked from the floor and you would want to add on as you wrap up. Yes.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'll restrict myself to just a question. But before then, I would like to reemphasize what Lennon has said about Agenda 2063 earlier. The thing is that there's so much enthusiasm, there's so much interest currently about the AfCFTA. Of course, we still have a long way to go, but I would say to a large extent, Africans, including young Africans, are aware of this agreement. People are beginning to ask questions about this agreement. However, like I've said earlier, the AfCFTA cannot succeed as a standalone agreement. The AfCFTA is only one of the flagship programs, projects under the EU's Agenda 2030. In that case, as we continue to do advocacy for the implementation of the AfCFTA, and I think this is also should be of interest to YouLead and other partners, who are here, we should endeavor to also promote, and carry out advocacy on other important frameworks that will enable the AfCFTA to work. For example, the Free Movement Protocol, which was submitted to the heads of state and government of the EU in Kigali, at the same time with the AfCFTA, has only been ratified by four countries. It has been signed by, I think, 15 or thereabout, but only ratified by 4 countries. And if a country does not ratify an agreement, the agreement does not become binding upon such countries. Yeah. So I want to call our attention, as advocates, as we advocate about the AfCFTA, also try and know more about the other complementary agreements that will support the AfCFTA implementation, like the Free Movement Protocol, and carry out advocacies in our member states, our heads of state, to relevant agencies in our member states, to make sure that our countries sign and ratify these agreements, so that free movement will become easy across the continent. Because I think the challenge is that oftentimes, we are so passionate about the AfCFTA, everyone wants to move and do trade, but if this protocol, the Free Movement Protocol, has not come into force, there's no way we can achieve that. It's not going to happen. We are just deceiving ourselves. I said this to the SG, your SG in Durban last year, that many young people wanted to go to Inter-African Trade Fair in Durban, in South Africa. They had their funding, their support, they had their products even shipped to South Africa, but they couldn't make it to Durban because of South Africa's very restrictive visa policy. Of course, we know there are concerns which are legitimate, but what we need to do as Africans is come together and sit down and see how we are going to address these concerns, and not continue to shy away from implementing these very crucial agreements. There's also the single air African transport market, which tries to create African one sky travel. We all know it's very difficult on this continent. You have to go from one end of the continent and then come back to another. It doesn't make sense. I'm glad to hear that of recent there's an effort by about 15 or so countries to start implementation of the single air transport African market, which will really provide stronger link between member states of the African Union. So there are also other policies like the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, which seeks to address infrastructure challenges such as the Africa Integrated High-Speed Railway Project and the highways, various highway projects across the continent, which we must endeavor to carry out advocacy on if we really want to make the AfCFTA a success. And then the question I want to respond to has to do with my brother from Ikoyaka, Tanzania, who was asking about the justification for the African Youth Business Council, which we are going to launch this afternoon. First of all, I would like to say that the mandate of the African Youth Business Council is a bit different from the mandate of Ikoyaka. Ikoyaka is like general. That's why we have everyone here. It represents, youth participation in the AfCFTA, generally speaking, like everyone who is interested about the AfCFTA. But the Youth Business Council is strictly for entrepreneurs. What it seeks to do is protect the interests of African youth-led businesses in the AfCFTA era, essentially. It's like the counterparts of the East African Business Council, the SADC Business Council, and the Continental African Business Council. However, what we seek to do is essentially ensure that the interest of young business players, which is often not addressed by the big guys, is protected through this council. And in terms of, you also raised the issue of Ikoyaka not having achieved its mandate, and we are trying to come up with this. I feel what Ikoyaka has done in the last 1 year under the leadership of David is simply amazing. Sometimes I'm even wondering, I'm surprised. They don't have an office, there's no structure, everyone is a volunteer, including David, and in 1 year they have achieved established structures in 54 countries. How many institutions are able to achieve this with funding and everything? So I think we should, when we do good things, we should be able to pat ourselves on the back and say we have done great things. What David and his team have been doing in the last 1 year has been amazing, simply amazing. If you look at the social media presence, the efforts, I don't know, David may perhaps need to tell us, how many people you have been able to reach, with your advocacy on AfCFTA in the last year. Perhaps that will help some of us appreciate the efforts and investments that you have made in the last 1 year. In a nutshell, what I was trying to say is that the African Youth Business Council is a bit different in terms of the mandate to Ikoyaka. Is essentially to address the interests of young business people in the AfCFTA, and is trying to complement in a way the work of Ikoyaka, which, like I said, has been doing a great job. So I feel as young people, we should always endeavor to engage with these institutions and these bodies so that we can make them work. Because if we don't engage and support them, there's no way they can, work and lead us to what we always like to call the Africa we want. Thank you.
Good. Okay. I gave you some time. You were speaking like an Ikoyaka advocate for a bit, but yes, it's good. Let me just run quickly online. Then we close this very soon with my brother Joseph, Stephen, and my sister Mechi. Yes, is Grace online, team? Yes, she could just come in, and Grace, please come through. Some of your parting shots, what we should expect next year in Kenya. We will be in Nairobi. So what are some of those parting shots, Grace? Is Grace coming through? Okay, as we wait for Grace to come through, let's have my brother, Stephen, you just parting shots on the next steps. In this case, within the AU-EU Youth Partnership, what are the next steps? What can we do to strengthen that? And yes, please.
For sure. On that, and I was taking some notes on the questions that are coming in. I suppose I want to echo. First of all, I was really glad that someone mentioned the EU-AU youth grants and the aid models. I want to echo what Yuso said and the excellent point that was made as well from the online panelists. I think we need to start moving and towards closer monitoring of these implementations of how they're working. We have great ideals that are in documents like Agenda 2063 for Africa and Agenda 2030 at the UN level, but to really monitor how they are going. And as you said, to work towards a partnership of equals, we need to come together and sit down at the same table. We've tried other ways, they don't work. Let's really make sure from the top down to the bottom that it is going exactly as we intended and getting our own interests aligned. Very quickly as well, I wanted to note there was an excellent point on the gallery when it comes to technical skills and soft skills. For the young people, I think the soft skills are really important. We can talk about all these policy wonk details about competences and what articles of the treaty, but young people need to start engaging with people and communicating at a level we can all easily engage with and understand. I think that's really important.
Yes.
And those are my main points that I
Good.
noted.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you. Yes, Grace, are you there with us? Quickly. Your parting shots, Grace? You're muted if you're speaking. Okay. Yes, I know you will come through eventually. Let me just run quickly to my sister Mechi. Just quickly, your last words. I know there's a lot that you will have to talk about later on in other different engagements, but yes.
Okay, my last words will be just to reiterate on what has been earlier mentioned.
Yeah.
First and foremost, when the Kenyan lady president, she said she was going to take it upon herself, I equally made that pledge to myself to reach out to people in my community, young women and youth, to inform them more about the AfCFTA. And it will be of your interest to know I'm here advisor for Cameroon, so it's going to be a good platform for me to be able to use it to reach out to my community. Equally, somebody mentioned that they have ideas and they need funding. How do they go about it? I'll use my personal experience. I started with almost nothing, but it's just the commitment first. When you have the idea, how can you start small? Because if you cannot manage $10,000, you cannot manage $50,000. So always learn to start small, no matter how small it is, just make the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Start small, bottom up. I know my president in Kenya launched the Hustler Fund, and people are saying, that is, but start small, get that small loan and build it. Let it make sense of it. Then you will be able to access now bigger. So yes, as we conclude, Grace, are you still on? Yes, perfect. You just you could come through and give us some parting shots. Of course, Kenya is 2023. What is there? What are you planning for us? Yes, the next steps. Yes. You're muted. I see you're muted. You could just unmute. Oh, the control team. Yeah, they're fixing it. No worries, they're fixing it shortly. Could you try speaking again? I don't know. The voice should be coming through. Someone is against our parting shots, but we will come through. Someone is against. Okay, let me move to Joseph as they work on the technicality to have the audio back on. Yes, Joseph, your parting shots. Funguo is kind of an amazing initiative. What is there for our African youth, and what are the next steps? What are some of those other creative initiatives? I don't know, maybe are you the man with the money? Someone said there is money being given out. Okay.
Well,
yes.
I was in the conversation, so I cannot talk about that.
Yes.
Right. I think this has been an amazing conversation, to be honest, and I think there is quite a lot to learn from each other.
Yeah.
We have heard the outcry that we need to move from words to actions that are going to benefit the youth. I think policymakers in the room are hearing that. We've been talking about, easing trade across the continent, and I think Bosco touched on the issue of single currency across Africa. Maybe we should think about maybe even a better idea. Why don't you think about a digital currency, and people can keep with their, currencies? So that's just an idea that people can actually think about. But in short, we need platforms like these so you can keep on sharing. Of course, you might see that it's just another convening, but this is just more than a convening. And I would like to conclude by congratulating the YouLead organizers and MSDCC for this great work. I think we need people to take initiatives if we are going to move from words to action. And we expect next year to be even much better, and probably to engage those other people that the audience saying that they should actually be on table. Otherwise, thank you very much for inviting me, and I am looking forward to further collaboration and engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause to my panel. Is Grace online? Is she able to speak, or yes, is the audio fixed? Okay, people are saying their voices were not being recorded all along. Okay, Grace. Grace, can you now hear us, or the audio is worked on? Okay, yes, I think it's okay. I think Grace is having challenges, but as I conclude, just 2 weeks ago, I was in Niger in the AU Heads of State Extraordinary Summit. And while there, of course, I was interested in the Council of Ministers, the idea of the structural exclusion of youth. The truth is, if you look at the African Union framework, there is what I always want to refer to as a structural exclusion. So what we are trying to do over time, especially with the AfCFTA Youth Advisory Council, we are approaching to see that these barriers that are limiting youth to participate, meaningfully participate, not just coming to sit and listen, but meaningfully participate. We work on them, we break them. The idea is to start from the policy level. They were talking of the National AfCFTA Implementation Strategy. That is where we want to get the youth in these meetings. And of course, one of the countries that has been able to champion that is Kenya here. We have the Hustler Fund. I was interesting myself to see what is the age bracket of these people championing this. And you see, it's a young group. And you may know Kenya is one of the countries in the Guided Trade Initiative. And they've already begun trading. So the idea is to see other member states also adopt the same pace that Kenya, Rwanda, Tunisia, Cameroon, also under the Guided Trade, is doing. So the idea, what we are trying to do, and what I was interested in the Council of Ministers, is mainly to see that the effort that I've given in youth, women in trade, should be the same effort given to youth in trade. Youth in trade have ideally been neglected. There should be a specific focus. This demographic dividend that they are talking about, let it make sense by having the youth themselves participate in the process. And that is my cry. That is why I champion what I'm championing. And of course, that is why we are having AfCFTA youth champions, to see that they meaningfully engage. We are, of course, the advisory council structure is growing. The first birthday was in November, and of course launched by Wamkelebene, and we are growing. And the idea is to see all of us join. Very soon, the membership application is coming through for us to join in, and of course have a new crop of young, passionate leaders who are very intentional to championing youth inclusion in the AfCFTA. Next year, 2023, is the beginning of our African women and youth owning our own development. Let's make the sense of this Agenda 2063. Next year is the day we are transforming. 2 weeks, very soon, we will go to 2023, and the whole idea of this business forum is to see you share those ideas, we capture them, and we present them to the Council of Ministers, present to the Secretariat. I was with His Excellency Muchanga. He's now in the US, but for the American Heads of State Summit. But the idea was also to see that the youth are integrated in the AUC processes. That is the goal, that is the idea. And that's why you see, when we come here to speak, we represent you, but for us to be able to meaningfully represent you, we need your voices. And this forum, as I should say, has achieved that. If there's anyone disagreeing, come and talk to me. But yes, that is the idea. You have been very engaging, you've shared very amazing thoughts, and of course the panel here has also been very engaging. And I just want to give thanks to, of course, my Ikoyaka champions from Lerato, from Lesotho. Very far from Lesotho. She traveled all the way from Lesotho. Dr. Eileen from the US, and of course my friends Juso from Europe. Thank you for the commitment, and of course the broader audience, our African audience, who have joined us virtually and now here physically. As I conclude, I just want to tell us, it's time for us to take charge of our own development, and it starts now. Let's stop complaining. Let's start giving ideas. Cindio, let's start giving ideas that are going to transform us. And whichever little, you don't need enough money. Whatever you can give, that is what Africa needs. Beyond that, we will struggle. So this future is ours. This future is now, not tomorrow. The future is now. The leaders are now. And my good friend, of course, very soon to become my very good friend, Celine here, is showing us the way. And of course, my sister here, Nusrat here, they're championing. You saw her passionately speaking. The future is now. We are the leaders of now. As Mama will be transitioning, I would of course expect my sister here from Tanzania to then also take charge. From there, the future is now, and it starts with us. Asanteni sana, and thank you so much for being a very engaging audience. So it's meal time. It's meal time. It's time for the meals. Cindy, that hand clap. That hand clap. Those are the people who were waiting for the bell to ring, and they were on your marks. Yes. So it's meal time. Please go with your bags. We are going to create some space. I know we're crowded, so these tables will be removed apart from the front tables, but the other tables will be removed to create enough leg room for you and enough space. So it's meal time. Mercy, would you want to guide us on where they should pass and where they will find their meals? There are tents the other side. That's where we are going to have the meals. Please, meals. We should be back here by. It's already coming to 1:30, so we should be back by 2:15. Yes, 45 minutes for food is enough time for us to eat. Yes, combined breakfast and lunch. Cindy, take your time, eat, don't choke, but thank you.
You'll have your meals across there. There's a door.
Yes,
and then there are stairs around just behind up. An open this room at the end. Please take with you your bags so that when we are moving tables here, we don't inconvenience.
Okay, great. My panel, before my panel leaves, a photo moment with Shalene, if you don't mind, and my sister here. You could join us here for a photo moment. Yes, including myself. I'm also inviting myself. Yes. Yeah, you will create, no. I think up there is okay. We will just create enough leg room for, yes, lunch is 45 minutes, please. Okay. Yeah. We could maybe curve it here. Just curve. Let's curve like this. Okay, I think we're good. We are done. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my panel. Yes.
Africa, Africa.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural Arusha Debates 20.
Africa, to solve Africa's, what is the exact solution?
Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Africa.
These hard questions
Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Africa. Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Africa.
What can we do to reduce unemployment? Can we be job creators rather than just job seekers?
The only business you can go into, whether you are a public figure, public official, or otherwise, and nobody will praise you or probe you, is agriculture.
This is where the ideas of young people can begin snowballing.
We need to get into technological innovation. Since 2021, investors have thrown $940 million into technology companies in Africa. So technology is the way to go.
It is important that whatever is done at policy level is disseminated to the
to the users or to the beneficiaries.
What is your ideal Africa that you wish to have?
Africa which supports the youth, because the youth are the innovative and they can move Africa.
An Africa driven by business, trade, and investment.
It's a united Africa, one Africa by Africans and for Africans.
I want the AfCFTA to be for the young people and driven by the young people.
Buy East Africa, build East Africa. That is the brand we need to put across. That is the song we should be singing as youth.
Mine, it is Africa that is borderless.
I think it's important to start to aim